have a quorum of, we now have a quorum of 6. I can call the meeting to order, the business meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. Vito, can you take roll call, please?
Funny thing, I actually can. Thank you so much, Steve. Steve Stowe, President, are you here?
Yes.
Jennifer Hugh? No? Elizabeth Chan? Vito Labella is here. Marie, you got us? Oh, who's that? Who was that?
I think that was Elizabeth.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, can you come off mute?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
Hello, Elizabeth. Good evening.
Hi.
I am here, Vito Labella, Marie Brugados.
Here.
Marie, welcome. Councilman Min is excused. Li Ping Jiang.
Here.
Hello, Li Ping. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. Myra Rosenblatt. Is Maya here? No. And Kevin is here. Kevin, hello, sir.
Yep, I'm here. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Vito. I just want to welcome everyone to the CEC for District 20 business meeting for December. Before I start, there are a few important announcements. First, a reminder that this is a public meeting and it is being recorded. Second, we have translation here tonight, Spanish, Arabic, and Mandarin. I would now like to, you should see video of these interpreters. I would now like them to announce instructions for any attendees who may wish to dial into the language lines at this time. Can we start with our Spanish interpreters? Can you please introduce yourselves?
This is Rafael. I'm Spanish interpreter, ID number 7495. As the interpreter speaking, may I go ahead and make the announcement?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hola, muy buenas noches. Si hay alguna persona aquí quien desee escuchar esta reunión en español, debe de marcar a un número telefónico que es el 347-966-4114. Se le pedirá un número de identificación personal, el cual es 433-107-714 y la tecla de número o también conocida como tecla de gato. Thank you.
Thank you. Would our Arabic interpreter please introduce yourselves?
Nuestro intérprete de árabes puede presentarse.
Hello. Hello, my name is Abdullah Hawili and I will be the Arabic interpreter. As the Arabic interpreter, may I do my announcement in Arabic to the Arabic speaking
Yes,
people?
please.
Thank you. مرحبا. لو سمحتم أن تقوموا بطلب الرقم 347-966-4114 وأدخل الرقم السري الرقم السري وهو 420-805-981 وعلامة الباوند المربع. أكرر، إذا كنت تريد أن تستمع للغة العربية اضغط على رقم الهاتف 347-966-4114 وثم أدخل رقم البن وهو 420-805-981 وبعدها علامة المربع. إذا كنت أن تسمع للغة العربية عبر الصوت فقط ولكن تريد البقاء على غرفة مؤتمر زوم من أجل أن تستمع على جهاز الكمبيوتر، لو سمحت أن تضع جهاز الكمبيوتر على الصامت وتقوم بوضع الصوت على الصامت وبعدها اطلب على رقم الهاتف رقم اتصال المؤتمرات. مجددا للغة العربية الرقم سوف يكون 347-966-4114 ورقم السري 420-805-981 وعلامة المربع. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, would our Mandarin interpreters please introduce themselves and provide their instructions?
Hey, my name is Ken, and I'm gonna do the announcement in Mandarin. 各位晚上好啊、如果你们需要中文翻译的话，请致电347-966-4114，347-966-4114，然后电话那个房间号码是109-935-916井号109-935-916井号键。然后进入到电话会议之后的话，麻烦把你们的手机调成静音，就把它麦克风静音掉，谢谢。Yep, that's it.
Great, thank you very much. And thanks again to all interpreters for being here and providing this important service. Please remember during the meeting that they will be translating, and please consider speaking slower to allow them time to keep up. Just one quick note about the calendar meeting. Following the business meeting, we will hold a public comment session. And if you would like to sign up for public speaking, there is a sign up form located on the website, on the meeting flyer, and it will be posted in the chat as well, if you'd like to sign up for public speaking at this time. Okay, so the agenda for tonight's business meeting is as follows. Approval of the November business meeting minutes, approval of the December special meeting minutes, a quick budget issue. Then we have a final interview for one of the candidates for the vacant seat. The candidate was not able to make the special meeting last week. And then we will go into what's called executive session, just the council members, to discuss the candidates for the 2 vacant seats on the CEC. So first order of business, approval of the November 2021 business meeting minutes. Natalia, can you share those, please? Are there any changes to the business meeting minutes from November? Okay, hearing no changes, the minutes are approved. Natalia, can you share the minutes from the December special meeting, please? Are there any changes to the special meeting minutes? Okay, hearing no changes, those minutes are approved. next up, budget. Natalia, Natalia, can you just share that screenshot of the budget? I emailed everyone about this, and if you didn't have a chance to get familiar with it, what we need to do, what I would like to do, and this is up to a council vote, we have to vote on it, is reimburse a parent coordinator who paid a website fee for the District 20 Arts website. This website was created last term by a former council member. It had a large number of content and performances from District 20 students, performing arts, visual arts, and we've let it, there's no one available to maintain it anymore, so we're going to let it expire. For the last 5 months, this parent coordinator has been paying the website fee. We've now stopped the fee, but I would like to request that we do the right thing and reimburse her for the 5 months she covered the fee. The fee is $51.16 per month. And so we need to find $255.80 to reimburse her. Natalia, can you zoom in on the budget? Expand it a little bit, is that possible?
I will definitely try.
And for council members, just to, I know most of you are not used to looking at this budget, but the amounts, the budgeted amount is the first column to focus on. That shows how much our budget was at the start of the year. And then the committed column is how much has been spent so far. And so the items in the budget amount column, we should look those over and think about maybe moving $255 from one of those columns. Create a line item. So we have parent member reimbursement, president reimbursement. Yeah, we would need to create a new line item. And I think we can call it something like, well, actually, hey, is Steve Weiser, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hey.
Can we use the CEC website line item and just move the money there and just keep, that way we don't have to create a new line item and move it there. And then since it's indirectly, it's a CEC website that we're talking about.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just the category over there.
Yeah. So I'll propose, I was looking at these, and Natalia, I also would love you to give your opinion on some of these categories too, because a lot of these affect you, like equipment, P-card, supplies. But I was thinking about the refreshment and family engagement row. Maybe moving $255 out of that 600. Because in a way, it's family engagement. It's an arts website, so it's.
I think we can. I think it might be possible to just reimburse her straight from that line.
Love it, Steve.
'Cause-
You agree? I love that idea.
I agree. I think that's the best thing, because we may need that $600 in January if we have real meetings.
No, wait, Vito, you're saying something different. I'm saying take the money out of that line item, out of refreshment and family engagement.
No, I think we should leave, I think we should leave that money in there, because we might need it at a later date, and take the reimbursement money out of the website.
Oh,
What's
sorry.
the money? There's no money in the website line. That money is
Yeah,
already
sorry.
spent.
That
No,
wasn't
so
clear.
why don't we do it from instructional supplies, because a website is kind of like a instructional.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at something different. I see commitment 2,100, budget amount 2,100 for the website. What am I
It's been-
looking?
Right, so
spent.
because those two are the same, there's none left.
If it's,
The committed
Okay.
is how much has already been spent.
yeah,
Do we need to increase that? That's interesting. If we were going to increase something, we would increase that line item. I would think.
and Vito, also keep in mind, we also have $5,400 in events that could be used for refreshment and family engagement as well. But Natalia, can you just talk about like the instructional supplies and the equipment line items? Like how do you, in the P card too, like, you know how much money you sort of spend as an administrative assistant. What do you think about those amounts?
Well, I haven't ordered the P card yet. I mean, in the past few years, like I've rarely used it. I mean, there's still time to get it. Equipment was to purchase a new printer, but with the way that things have been backed up, like I still haven't gotten that hard drive that I ordered back like mid-November.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'll be using anything from the equipment line at all. If you want to use that, it's fine with me.
Because we can always move stuff around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Steve, do we have to only pull from one source or can we pull from multiple sources?
We could pull from multiple. I just think
You
it's,
could pull from multiple, but it makes it more difficult to actually process the reimbursement.
Right, right.
It's
I
easiest
get,
to have everything in one line. Fine.
yeah, it does. It is simpler, but if we're having difficulty deciding where to pull from, you know, that is an option we can fall back to.
right.
Yeah, I mean, you should move, if you need to, right, you can move money from multiple lines to one line, and then you
Yeah.
reimburse from the one line.
I think what makes the most sense, Natalia, if the equipment line, 2,400, you don't anticipate needing that anytime soon.
Yeah.
And we're only talking about $255. Let's just move it out of that one. And if later in the term, you know, there's a piece of hardware you need, a printer or something, we can reallocate to that.
I can probably take from instructional supplies also.
It's because
Yeah.
those are kind of your categories. I leave it to you,
Yeah.
whatever you think.
Yeah, we can take from either of those.
All right, let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
do, which one, Natalia? You decide.
I'd say go for equipment since there's more money in that.
Okay.
Um,
So I'll make a motion to transfer $255. Let's just call it $256, just to round off. $256 from equipment into the CEC website category. Is there a second?
Seconded.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Are any opposed?
That sounded like an opposed.
So I think on a voice vote, I think that passes on a voice vote.
okay.
And then we will just, what's the and then Steve, do we need a second motion now to approve the reimbursement to Michelle Nye?
Yeah, because you just moved the money, so now.
Yeah. So then the woman who's paid this, her name is Michelle Nye. She's the parent coordinator at MS 936, longtime District 20 PTA member involved in education. So I'll just make a motion that we reimburse Michelle for the amount of $256. Is there a second?
Seconded.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. The motion passes. Anything else on this before we move on? Okay. Interview.
Steve, before we do that, can I just mention Elizabeth Hugh is here, and I see Maya. And Maya, can you just hello, wave
Jen,
to us?
you mean Jen is here.
Jen here, yes. Jen Hugh.
You've merged our vice presidents. into
I know,
one-
right?
One,
Well, kind of like,
great.
Hi, guys.
hi, Maya.
Hey,
Hey, Maya.
Maya.
Great.
Just in time for the interview. So I believe I saw Maria. How do I say your name, Maria? Can you unmute and introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. It's actually Maria. So you got it right.
It's Maria, right? Okay,
Yes.
great. Nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I think we've emailed you sort of the outline of what's going to happen, but just to reiterate it, you can have 2 minutes to make an opening statement. We'll ask you 3 questions. and then you can have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. And, the idea being for us to get to know as much about you as you think is important for us to know. So please, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so Maria Shuksa, I wanted to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to interview for this vacancy. I am a mother of an awesome 9-year-old. She is currently at PS 682 Tau. And this is, we just actually started in the public school system. We were in a charter school prior to this. And for me, one of the reasons why I want to be more involved, not just at the school level, but, with CEC is that, when I first, just started looking into how things can get done within the DOE, I didn't even realize there were so many panels and councils and groups. And I think that it's just so important to sort of like understand like how you want to help your district or your school or just, the education system overall. And one of the things that I think is important to me in terms of this is like, there's probably like 10 or 20 different things like, obviously PTAs, PTOs, then there's like districts and borough councils, leadership teams, etc. And then, all those citywide councils. And I think for me, just coming in here from outside of the public school system, it's just so, I want to be able to not just play a role, but also be able to engage other parents and get them more involved. And I think one of the ways of doing that is to first understand like everything that's out there and how you can, get more involved and have more of a voice and things like that. Because I think also for a lot of parents, we're all busy and their primary point of contact, even though there's school admin and stuff like that, like their primary point of contact for concerns and stuff are teachers, and teachers can only do so much, and they have, a very specific role that, they play in the education system. So, seeing all these different, like I said, panels, councils, etc., and seeing that there was a vacancy here, I'm really
Great.
excited. So, is my time up?
It is.
Sorry.
Thank you.
All right.
No, nice statement. The good thing is you don't have to compete with anyone else. So you're up next. So the first question is, besides overcrowding, what do you think is the most important education issue in District 20? And you can have 2 minutes to answer that one.
Okay. I would say probably safety. And I think safety encompasses so many different things, especially nowadays, whether it's, on a student to student level in terms of bullying, whether it's different, resources available at school, whether it's externally, there could be other aspects just going to school or leaving school, such as traffic, like foot traffic, vehicle traffic, things like that. There's crossing guards missing from a lot of places. And I think that presently that's, one of the main concerns for our district, and as well as the obvious, which is COVID, exposure, being safe, limiting, contacts and all that contact tracing and things like that. And, I would say, yeah, definitely safety.
Great, thank you. Jen, do you want to answer the next question? And if you don't have it, you can.
I have it.
Go for it.
Okay, so the question number 2 is, please describe a time where you had to work with a team of people to set a goal and accomplish it.
Does it matter like the context or?
Not really, but if you could think of a time where it was not so easy or smooth, and how you were able to resolve that as a group, that'd be great.
I have to do that all the time at work, but
Yeah.
I guess one thing that maybe everyone remembers, Superstorm Sandy, there was a program called Build It Back that I spent a few years working on. And I think they're still probably doing build to back projects today, although I'm not sure. But when they first implemented that program, I was working at Department of Design and Construction at the time. And my agency agreed to take on like a certain number of homes to assist with, other agencies that were working in rebuilding different homes. And I worked in the hazmat unit. So, my background is like in public health and hazardous materials and things like that. So my group was responsible for dealing with all of the public health and environmental components of, demolishing or rebuilding homes. And prior to that, we essentially just worked on, the typical city capital projects. And this was the first time that we basically, we're working on this huge high profile project with a number of different agencies at the city level, at the federal level involved, and lots of different regulations because of where the money was coming from. And we were all kind of just running around all over the place. We didn't know what the policies were, what the rules were, et cetera. And there was, a lot of difficulty in terms of getting everyone to work together because there were so many people involved, not only from the, government agencies, but also contractors, also homeowners and things like that. So one of the things that I had to do regularly, well, that prior to that, I had to first figure out the system and implement it, was, creating like a system and a policies and procedures for explaining everything, like all of the regulatory stuff to everyone, making sure we're all on the same page in terms of like what has to be done in terms of hazmat and public health remediation, and making sure that, everyone's concerns and everyone's voices matter and they all like play a role, whether it's the homeowner, whether it's the project manager managing the work, whether it's the contractor doing the work, so it could be difficult sometimes when you have so many people from so many different entities involved. But I would say that was, I hope that's a good example.
Thank you. That was great. I think Elizabeth has the next question.
Yes, thank you, Jen. Okay, the next and last question is, parents are often ignored by the Department of Education on important issues. What should the CEC do in response?
I think that one thing that that is, could be done is just in order like to get more parents involved and also just to get more parents aware that, I'm sure they get emails like CDC, whatever meeting or whatever it is, but I think that creating more of a direct relationship between parents and the CEC would be like a great place to start because there would be more like a more, direct line of communication in terms of like parents' concerns and things like that. And that way, like if, a parent reaches out to the DOE with an issue, I'm sure they get emails all the time or concerns and things like that. So they're spread thin. But I guess sort of delineating and creating like a more direct way for CEC to communicate with parents and then communicate to the DOE would be very helpful. And I think one way to even get parents more involved, I know emails get sent out and notifications and things like that, but I found and a lot of parents found just in terms of any notifications, like just creating a text message system is for some reason makes so much more of a difference than communicating about like, events or meetings via email. And I think that just that tiny little thing will help get more parents involved and that'll help get more parents' concerns heard and, properly and loudly, I guess, funneled over to the DOE.
Great, thanks. Good answer. And now you have 2 minutes to make a closing statement of your choosing.
Okay. I am, as I mentioned earlier, I am very interested in this position. I really want to start playing a bigger role in my child's education and my community. And, you know, I think there's a lot that I could bring to the table, especially not only coming from the perspective of a parent, but also coming from somebody who's just new in the public school system and like having those eyes. You know, I have like a really big background in working with the city, you know, obviously in public health, which is a hot issue right now. But, you know, just in general of like working on projects and tasks related to the city. And I feel like I have a very good understanding of sort of like how to get things done and put things in motion faster. And, you know, as somebody who, you know, at the CEC, I think that would be a very useful skill. I mean, that's about what I have for today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Maria. We will now, that is the conclusion, I believe, of the public portion of the business meeting. We will now, I'd like to make a motion for the CEC members to go into executive session to discuss the candidates. And just a reminder, Maria, and to anyone else, we will be voting on the candidates first thing at our 7 o'clock meeting. So is there a second to my motion to move into executive session?
Seconded.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Natalia, can you set up a breakout room for us, please?
So I can just exit the meeting, right? And then just come back at 7.
Same link if you like. Yep, same link, exactly.
Thank you
Yep.
very much. Take care.
Anyone else here? There won't be anything to do for 25 minutes here, so.
Got it. Okay,
back
thank
at
you.
7. Yep, thanks, Maria.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Is Steve Weezer joining us?
Yeah, we can have Steve come.
All right.
No, goldfish. No, there's no jar. But she's not.
Welcome to the CEC 20 calendar meeting for December. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:01. Vito, our recording secretary, could you take roll call attendance, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Steve. President Steve Stowe,
Here.
Vice President Jennifer Hugh,
Here.
Vice President Elizabeth Chan, we know she's here. She was just here. I'll go back. Vito Labella is here. Maria Brugadoris. Marie.
Here.
Marie Brugard. You didn't answer because I got your name wrong. See, that's fair. Gada means excused. Li Ping Jiang.
Yeah.
Maya Rosenblatt.
I'm here.
Kevin Zhao.
Here.
And Elizabeth. Is your mic working? Elizabeth Chan, we'll keep an eye out for her.
Great, thanks, Vito. Before we begin, just a couple of important announcements I would like to make. First, a reminder that this is a public meeting and it is being recorded. Second, I want to announce that there are Spanish, Arabic, and Mandarin interpreters here tonight. If you require translation services, please speak to one of the translators. We will now have them make their introductions and provide instructions on how to access the language lines. Could our Spanish interpreter please introduce themselves and give your instructions?
Hello, this is Rafael, Spanish interpreter 7495. Hola, yo soy Rafael, intérprete en español 7495. Si alguno de quienes desea escuchar esta reunión en español, puede hacerlo por vía telefónica al 347-966-4114. Se les pidará un número de identificación seguida por la tecla de gato o tecla de número. Esa identificación es el 433-107-714 y después la tecla de gato o tecla de número. Llamen, por favor, ponen en silencio en Zoom, se mantienen al teléfono para escuchar la reunión en español.
Great, thank you. Could our Arabic interpreter please introduce themselves?
Good evening. This is Abia, Arabic interpreter. I'm here with my partner, Abdullah. I will start now to provide the transcript in Arabic language. رجاء إذا كنت تريد الاستماع إلى هذا الاجتماع باللغة العربية الاتصال على رقم 347-966-4114. مرة أخرى الاتصال على رقم 347-966-4114 مع وضع رقم السري 420-805-981. مرة أخرى الرقم السري هو 420-805-981 مع علامة الهاشتاج. إذا كنت ترغب بالاستماع إلى هذا الاجتماع عن طريق غرفة الزوم، الرجاء كتم الصوت والاستماع من خلال الكمبيوتر والاتصال على رقم 347-966-4114. مرة أخرى 347-966-4114 مع إدخال الرقم السري 420-805-981 مع علامة الهاشتاج. مرة أخرى الرقم السري 420-805-981 مع علامة الهاشتاج. إذا كان لديكم أي سؤال الرجاء وضع في خانة الدردشة وشكرا. Thank you.
Thank you. And can our Mandarin interpreter please introduce yourself?
今天参与各位来宾还有家长，我是今天你普通话的翻译，我姓陈，叫 Max Chen， 很高兴，我们有这个电话线是普通话，请打347-966-4114，然后密码是109-516，再按字井字号，再重述一遍，今天的普通话专线号码是347-966-4114，然后密码是109-935-916，再按井字号。好，谢谢。
Thank you. And thank you again, interpreters, for being here and providing this important service. Okay. At the end of tonight's meeting, there will be a public comment session. If you are a member of the public and you would like to sign up to speak, there is a form on the website, and the form will also be posted in the chat. Okay. So welcome everyone to CEC 20's December calendar meeting. The agenda for tonight has been shared on the screen. First, we will approve the November calendar meeting minutes. Then we will hold a vote on council candidates. There are 2 vacant seats, and we will hold a vote to fill those 2 seats. Then there will be a presentation from the Office of District Planning. Then there will be a presentation from the School Construction Authority. Then we will have the report of the district superintendent. We will have a report of council president, and then the public speaking session. I just wanted take a moment to welcome a few individuals who are joining us tonight. As usual, we are joined by Superintendent Dr. David Preto, joined by the Family Leadership Coordinator, Bill Chin. We're also joined by recently named CSA Representative Jane Marie Kapitanakis, and I hope she will be able to make a few comments to introduce herself later tonight, as well as her deputy representative from the CSA, Javier Muniz. Natalia, can you share the minutes from last month's calendar meeting? Okay. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes from November? No changes. The minutes are approved. So the first order of business tonight, new business, is vote on the council candidates. We will, each member, CEC member will state 2 candidates that they would like to vote for. Any candidate who receives 6 votes will be approved. So Natalia, can you please take the votes?
Sure. Steve Stowe.
So I will vote for Joyce and Maria.
Okay. Jennifer Hu.
I vote for Joyce and Yona.
Okay. Elizabeth Chan.
I vote for Joyce and Yona. Thank you.
Okay. Vito Labella.
I vote for Joyce and Yona.
Marie Brugueras.
Hi, I vote for Yona and Edli.
Okay. Li Ping Zhang.
Hi, I vote for Joyce and Yona.
Okay. Maya Rosenblatt.
Hi, I'm voting for Iona and Edward.
Said Edward. Okay, Kevin Zhao.
I vote for Joyce and Maria.
Okay. We've got 5 votes for Yona, 2 for Edward, 2 for Maria, and 7 for Joyce.
Natalia,
Mm-hmm.
can you read back the votes one more time from each person,
Okay.
please?
For Steve, I have Joyce and Maria. For Jennifer, I have Joyce and Yona. For Elizabeth, I have Joyce and Yona. For Vito, I have Joyce and Yona. For Marie, I have Yona and Ed. For Li Ping, I have Joyce and Yona. For Maya, I have Yona and Ed. For Kevin, I have Joyce and Maria.
So I think we have 6 for Yona, if I'm not mistaken. Jen, Marie, Elizabeth, Li Ping, Vito, and Maya.
I've got 5. All right. Okay. Oh wait, I see it. Okay, 6 each. All right. Now,
Is that, do we
I
agree?
still have 5 for Yona.
Yeah, Jen,
Mhm.
Marie, Elizabeth, Li Ping, Vito, and Maya.
Steve,
Yes.
did we definitely seat Joyce?
Yeah,
Yes, we
correct.
have-
Joyce has enough.
I think there's a confusion. Let's seat Joyce, if I may make a recommendation.
No, we have
Seat
the 6 for
Joyce.
Yona.
Oh,
We
you
have the
found
6
it?
for
Can
Yona.
we do a voice vote again? Because it seems, I don't want anyone to feel,
No, we have it.
You have the number, we agree, Natalia, right, on the number?
Yes, you have the 6.
Based on what, right.
does anybody object?
Good.
Thank you.
So the voting is concluded. Joyce and Yona are both new CEC members for CEC 20. Once they have provided their oath of office to face, they can join the CEC and join our meetings. And they can certainly, if they're on right now, you can certainly attend and remain on for the remainder of the meeting.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, yes.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Everybody else for applying.
Okay. So next up,
Now we have, okay, next up is the
District Plan.
office, Office of District Planning. We are,
I see Jamie.
yeah, and Perry Stein is here as well. So we're very pleased tonight to be joined by the Office of District Planning. For those who don't know, this is the department, this is the agency responsible for long-term forecasting and assessing district needs based on demographic trends. Jamie Dollinger and Perry Stein have joined us tonight and have a presentation to make. This is an area, just so the council members know, this is an area where CECs, we do have actual power, especially on things like zoning. And so this is an area I really encourage everyone to listen carefully to what Jamie and Perry say and sort of think about the issues. And it's and I'll let them do the rest of the talking. So Jamie, would you like to take the floor?
Sure. Thank you, Stephen, so much for having us, and good evening to the rest of your council and the members of the public who are here this evening. Again, my name is Jamie Dollinger. I'm the Senior Director of Brooklyn Planning in the Office of District Planning. I'm joined by my colleague Perry, who will introduce himself in a minute. But again, we're pleased to be here. I see a lot of familiar faces. I have worked closely with your council for many years. So for those of you who I know, hello and welcome to new members. I'll just take you through kind of a quick overview of what we'll do this evening. And then again, I'll turn it to my colleague Perry to introduce himself. So I already did an introduction. I'm still excited to, again, hear from those of you who I don't know. We'll take you through a little bit of just the overview of our office, some of the work that we do in district planning, and the kinds of things that we are excited to partner on with you all. Then we'll take you through what we call our district data summary, which is a high-level overview of some really important needs and trends in the district, thinking through how we use that data to inform long-term planning and to really partner with you all to make some strategic decisions around things like zoning, new schools, et cetera. And then we'll lead that kind of data summary conversation into a discussion with you all. So again, what are your needs and priorities in District 20? I've already kind of shared some thoughts with this council and then with other councils that this is a really high level conversation to go through all of this data. So the last bullet might be something we start this evening, but we hope to continue. So if that means coming back and working with your council at your January meeting or giving you more time to interface with the data so you can really dig into what your needs and priorities are, that's something we're certainly open to. So again, we are the Office of District Planning. One of the biggest drivers behind our work is our partnerships with stakeholders. So the CEC is a huge stakeholder and a really important body that can help us understand what's happening in your community and in your schools. We partner really closely with our superintendents and obviously other DOE offices, and then our school communities. And through these partnerships, we're hoping to drive forward our strategic district plans with the forefront of those plans being equity and excellence. So as Stephen mentioned, we're really committed to advancing diversity and thinking through plans that can be implemented in our school communities that make all environments safe and high quality for our students. We use some levers when we're driving these strategic plans forward that can help us make some of those larger impacts or school changes. So we do either rezonings or unzonings directly in partnership with your council. You all are the voting body if we do put forward any rezoning or unzoning. So that's really important. And we'll take you through a little bit more about what that means in a bit. We also pursue some of those larger school changes, such as mergers, opening new schools, moving schools between buildings. Those are things we work on. And then we work on some other kind of more nuanced planning and programming. If we're adding new programs to schools, maybe we're thinking about ASD programming or dual language or enrollment planning to better fit the needs of students in the individual buildings. Those are things we do as well. And all of these, again, in partnerships with our stakeholders, are the best way that we know how to do our work. I'll turn it to Perry to introduce himself and talk a little bit about our overarching goals.
Thanks so much, Jamie. My name is Perry, and I joined the team at the Office of District Planning earlier this year in June. So I've been working on the team for almost 6 months now. And I'm really happy to be here tonight and to meet you all virtually and to have the chance to present on this data and start a larger conversation around district planning with you all. So to dive in a little bit into our goals at the Office of District Planning. So we are committed to the goal of equity and excellence for all students, and we're focused our efforts are focused on partnering with communities through the district planning process. So, that's why we're here tonight. We really want to, get all of your input on district needs. We want to increase access to quality schools and programs, particularly in underserved areas. Diversity and integration are core to our mission as an office as well. So we're always looking for ways to tackle that issue. And improving learning conditions for students to increase access to appropriate facilities for all students. So empowering communities. So as I said, that's, we're here tonight to start this conversation. And we're working to transform the way the district planning process works. We're hoping to engage in meaningful dialogue with communities in order to develop proposals that address needs and priorities. And this allows us to have authentic conversations about needs, to really seek solutions from the folks that are experiencing, this on the ground day to day, that have students in the schools, and know this, better than anyone else. So we're committed to ensuring all voices are heard, providing transparent and accessible information to the community, and empowering the community through these exact type of discussions. So this is just kind of a visual representation of our office's process throughout the year. So as you can see throughout this circle, throughout the entire cycle of our work stream throughout the year, we have community empowerment. So you see in that right quadrant, you see our needs and opportunities assessments. So this is something that we work on to identify the largest needs in specific school districts. This is something that we do with the community, with Superintendent Preto and other stakeholders. Then we start to have dialogue with those stakeholders and engage the community as we've identified those needs on the best solutions to meet those specific needs. And then we start that left, upper left quadrant where we're developing proposals and running scenarios by those different stakeholders to best meet the needs of the community and to tackle those needs that we identified early on. So in a second, we're going to move on to discuss the district data summary, but these are just some questions to keep in the back of your mind throughout the presentation. And these questions can serve to kind of just, make sure that as we discuss this data, that you're focused on, these questions to kind of guide your thinking. So do students in the district have access to quality schools and programs that meet their needs? Does access vary by neighborhood or demographic? Are all schools able to offer robust, sustainable programming? What are enrollment trends like? And does the district overall have excess seats at a particular grade level? Are DOE buildings being used efficiently to meet student needs? Is there overcrowding or available space that can be used to address those needs? And, of course, in light of the unprecedented impact of COVID-19 during the 2020 to 2021 school year, have new district needs possibly emerged, and are any existing needs now more pressing than they were previously? So before I dive into the data summary, this is both Jamie and my contact information. So if you do have any questions that you're not able to voice tonight, or if any questions come up over the coming weeks or months, you could definitely always feel free to reach out to us via email. So if you want to even take a screenshot of this page, you definitely feel free to do so. We're always open to feedback and input, so always feel free to reach out to us at our emails. And I'm going to quickly stop sharing my screen and then share a different document. Okay, so this is our District 20 data summary. So our office makes one of these data summaries for each school district throughout the city. And this one, of course, is specific to District 20. So this is what we're going to dive into this evening. I always note that this is a very extensive document, and we have shared the entirety of the document with the CEC. So if you'd like to take a deep dive into this document, if you haven't yet had the chance to do so, you do have access to it. And tonight we're kind of going to do the highlights. So we're going to go over some of the elements of the data summary that we feel are super relevant to District 20 and helpful to start the conversation. So here's a table of contents that, as you're going through the data summary, on your own time, you can definitely feel free to utilize that to guide your reading. But we start with kind of an overview of citywide trends. So interestingly, throughout New York City over the past 5 or 6 years, we noticed that enrollment has generally been declining overall in K through 12 schools, districts 1 through 32, both district and charter schools. Enrollment has been slowly declining. So we noticed in 2020, which is the last year that is represented on this graph, enrollment in grades K through 12 in New York City for the first time dipped below that 1 million student mark. So that is noteworthy, that overall the trend in enrollment has been declining broadly. Interestingly, we see the reverse trend when we look specifically at District 75 classes across New York City. So District 75 enrollment, while citywide, K through 12 enrollment has been declining, District 75 enrollment, which are schools and classes that serve the most high needs student population in the city, have been steadily increasing. So more students than ever before are qualifying for District 75 special classes. And this is a breakdown of our process as an office. So Jamie was kind of discussing a bit earlier about the levers that our office can pull to impact school utilization. We have Chancellor's Regulation A185, which governs the rezoning process and unzoning process in schools. And then we have Chancellor's Regulation A190, which governs the process to make major changes to school utilization that can include co-locations, school mergers, grade expansions, resightings, and other types of changes to school utilization. In recent years, we have made many changes to for District 20 with the CEC and superintendent. So as you can see here, there's a breakdown of different changes to school utilization over the past couple of years. So there's several significant changes, including an opening of a new district elementary and middle school, and a rezoning to create a zone for the new district elementary school, which is 20K 939. And there, as we go through this presentation, we're going to go over some more new capacities and different potential for changes to school utilization in the coming years that will involve these processes as well. So we'll dive a little bit deeper than that later on in the presentation. So when we look at enrollment trends in the district over the past 5 or 6 years, we see that at many grade levels in District 20, enrollment has been increasing. So early childhood education, pre-K, over the past 5 years has increased in enrollment. That's a trend that is seen in many districts throughout the city, is the pre-K for all program has been expanding. But interestingly, over the last year specifically, we do see this fairly steep decline. And this is something that we also see throughout the city, where early childhood education has been impacted, enrollment has been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic specifically. We definitely have seen that trend citywide. At the elementary school level, we see a slight dip in enrollment over the past 5 years, which is also consistent with citywide trends. And then at the middle school and high school levels, we do see slight increases in enrollment in District 20. So we see a 6.2% increase in enrollment at the middle school level and a 5.8% increase in enrollment at the high school level. When we look at individual grade bands, we see a fairly steep decline in enrollment, specifically in kindergarten. And then sixth grade and ninth grade saw enrollment increases that are fairly consistent with the middle school and high school enrollment increases that we have seen. And this year breaks down K through 5 enrollment. At district schools, there aren't many charter schools in District 20, so we see this chart looks, is fairly straightforward in District 20, where we see specifically, what is reflected in the previous page, which is district enrollment, remaining fairly stable in both elementary school and middle school in District 20, in district schools specifically. So I am going to pass it over to Jamie to discuss demand and capacity in District 20. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Perry. So I'm going to take you through this chart. If you have seen a presentation from us in previous years, this should look familiar with a couple of changes. So I'll just walk you through. This is our District 20 elementary school demand and capacity chart. So we're assessing essentially seats and available space for elementary school students in the district. The blue line you see above here in this chart represents either historical number of elementary school students that have actually materialized, which is why the last year you see a number for in this report is 2020. And then in 2021 and moving forward, we have a projection essentially of what those cohorts look like moving forward and how many students we anticipate we will need to accommodate. So this is a chart in this district that has been really important because the big takeaway here is the red line underneath the blue line is the available capacity. And so those are technically the number of seats that we have in individual school settings to accommodate students at the elementary school level. If we see that red line fall below the blue line, which is the number of students, we typically run into areas of either overcrowding. We could run into some capacity challenges, things like that. These are all very familiar challenges and issues in District 20. So I've been with the Office of District Planning since 2015. And I can tell you in like the 2017, 2018 school years, where we had kind of the height of kindergarten enrollment, we had that red capacity line much farther below the blue enrollment line. There were a lot of challenges with just ensuring we could accommodate students at their zone school. We could reduce the need to cap and overflow. So while it still looks to be obviously below that line, we're doing many things in our planning work to help rectify that moving forward, which is why you see kind of an increase in capacity as we get into the 2024, 2025 school years with new capacities coming online, which I'll talk about in a second. We can help add seats to the district. Through the process of rezoning, we can specifically target reducing overcrowding and again, that need to cap and overflow at individual schools. So these are really important projects that we want to work and partner with you all on. We also lean very heavily on our superintendent and our principals in this district because we know there's a lot of very creative programming happening with the available space, and maximizing the space that is in these school buildings is really important and something that District 20 has done really masterfully. So that's the positive there. We have a similar chart for middle school. So again, we have the blue line, which represents students, and the red line, which represents capacity. You'll see actually in the future, when we get some new middle school capacity in this district for the first time, I think again, in quite a while, we're seeing that red line exceed the blue enrollment line, which is great because it means that there will be a small excess of seats and therefore some reduced overcrowding and some additional choice that students can have at the middle school level, so we don't have some of those waitlist issues and things like that we currently see. So I'll talk a little bit about new capacities that are coming online in the future, and I won't go too deeply into them because I know we have the SCA this evening presenting shortly after us, which is great because they really have a very clear lens and framing for these new projects. But we at the Office of District Planning, of course, work really closely through the design process, through the planning process, and then ultimately become really, really involved when the school opens and we can think about kind of how that impacts the district. So the 127 edition at PS 127 was opened this fall, which is very exciting. We have a few new capacities that are going to be new schools. So addition is, of course, an addition to an existing building. The first one is a capacity at 3rd Avenue, which is tagged as a small elementary school in Sunset Park West, just a small bit south of where we built the new capacity at K746 a few years ago. There's going to be a new middle school that's opening in the Bay Ridge neighborhood at 86th Street, which some folks are calling the Nathan's site, the former site of the Nathan's hot dog location. So that's just helpful there when you're looking at this list. There's a former parochial school called Angel of Guardian on 13th Avenue. So that's that next site that you see there. There are a couple components with that building. There will be a district elementary school alongside District 75 seats, and we'll get a little bit more into that later in this presentation, just about how we're programming and planning for all of the students in District 20. But that's also anticipated as the other two are in September of 2024. And then we have a new pre-K center, which kind of falls a little bit outside of our planning, but is important and needed capacity in this district. So early childhood seats being added to a pre-K center. That's going to be about 90 seats. That's still TBD. And so unless we have additional information from the SCA, that project will have a completion date when we get a little bit closer to when it'll become available. So these are really important. As I mentioned, we have some very pervasive overcrowding in the district, and these new capacities are really not far away. They're exciting because they can help remedy that and help add really needed seats in this district. And then the last thing I'll highlight on this page is you can see the chart underneath the new capacity chart, which just shows funded seats. And the big takeaway here is that there's 3 main subdistricts in District 20. So neighborhood subdistricts are kind of the way identified need is allotted or funded in the district. And all of them have an identified need and a funded need, which means that we still, again, want to continue to look for additional projects. There's money in all of these subzones to think about building new capacities or rebuilding existing capacities to continue to add seats. So the kind of complementary part of that challenge is just finding where that can happen. But as you can see, this list of new capacities is really exciting, and the SCA works really hard to find those capacities and work with us to make sure that we are getting absolutely everything we can out of those spaces. So that is great. That's exciting for us. I will turn it back to Perry to talk a little bit about student demographics, and we'll start here with District 75.
Thank you, Jamie. So As Jamie mentioned, we're going to discuss District 75 a bit. So on this page, it essentially shows District 75 in terms of deficits that might exist in terms of seat need. So as you can see here, at the elementary school level in District 20, there's not currently a deficit for District 75 seats. All students in the district that qualify for a District 75 seat have one available to them within the district. However, at the middle school and high school levels, we do see fairly large deficits for District 75 seats. So essentially what this means is that there are students that live within District 20 that if they would like to go to a District 75 school that they qualify for, they need to travel outside of the district in order to go to a school that has those types of special classes that meet their needs. So, there's fairly large deficits of 126 seats at the middle school level and 187 seats at the high school level in District 20 of District 75 seat deficits in District 20. So, as I mentioned earlier on in the presentation, there has been an increase citywide in students that qualify for District 75 seats over the past 5 years. So in District 20, that has been no exception. Particularly, you can see here at the high school level, where 3 years ago there were 184 students enrolled in District 75 special classes in District 20. And as of this past school year, there were 211 students. For elementary school, there's also been a slight increase in District 75 special class enrollment within the district. And at the middle school level, we see, a fairly stable, number of students enrolled in District 75 over the past few years. Sorry, Jamie, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add quickly, I know that this particular chart and this conversation about available seats in the district, specifically at the District 75 middle school level, has been a very important conversation that we've had in past years. It has been one of our biggest challenges to ensure that we can quickly solve for this in a way that meets the needs of students and, again, reduces travel distance and things like that. I will share that we are approaching what I hope to be an exciting kind of solution for some of these challenges. I can't quite say more yet, but as soon as we're able to speak on this, the first kind of place that we'll head is back to your council to discuss. But we certainly know that this is like a very important topic, something that has our full attention and is a very important piece of our planning moving forward as well, given that the numbers, even 5 or 6 years ago for this student population did not look like this. And now there's obviously a very significant need that we need to accommodate. So I just wanted to put that framing out there as well.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jamie. Yeah, that's good context. And yeah, definitely at the top of our mind when we see these deficits and, in our history of working with the council, we know it's a priority. So definitely working towards solutions and, more to come on that in, hopefully very soon. And, moving on, the next highlight that we'll get to is, something new that we've included in our district data summaries over past years, which is the index of economic disparity. So essentially, this is a bit challenging to understand, but it's valuable context to have on schools in the district. So what this metric gets at is how individual schools compare to the district-wide average in terms of the number of students, or the percentage of students, I should say, that qualify for free or reduced price lunch. So essentially what this metric shows is how concentrated poverty is or economic disparity is at specific schools in the district, rather than spread across the district evenly. So a high number on this metric would indicate that economic disparity is concentrated at a relatively few number of schools within the district, but a low number of this index would indicate that economic disparity is spread out evenly across schools, that most schools are in line with the district average for economic disparity. So the best way to interpret this metric is to look at the trend in a specific district. So when we look at kindergarten, we notice that, broadly, over the past, 5 or 6 years, the economic disparity index has gone down. We see how it peaked in the 2016 to 17 school year at this 15.4 number, and has since decreased to around 12.1, which means that over those years, economic disparity is becoming to resemble the district, at individual schools more than it previously was. So previously it was more concentrated at a few schools, and now it's more spread across all schools. And similarly, at the 6th grade level, we see, the general trend of a decline in this index as well. So we see we actually are, at our lowest point over the past few years of 7.4, which means that, at 6th grade classrooms throughout District 20, economic disparity fairly closely resembles the district-wide average, at least more so than it did in previous years. So moving on, this is just some demographic information about District 20 as compared to the borough-wide and citywide averages. So in terms of students with disabilities, 17% of District 20 students are students with disabilities. That is slightly lower than the Brooklyn and the citywide average. In terms of students that qualify as economically disadvantaged, which we measure by students that qualify for free or reduced price lunch, District 20 has a slightly higher percentage of students that qualify for free or reduced price lunch, so students that are economically disadvantaged, as compared with both the Brooklyn and the citywide average. District 20 also has a significantly higher percentage of students that are English language learners than the borough-wide and citywide averages. So lastly, this page just has a tally of different programs that exist throughout District 20. So District 20 has 3 ASD programs. So these are programs that serve students on the autism spectrum. So there's 1 Horizon, 1 NEST program, and 1 intensive kindergarten program. There are 8 GNT programs, and I know that reading through the minutes from the last meeting, I know that there was a lot of conversation around Brilliant NYC led by the superintendent, which is definitely good context for that number. There are 17 schools in District 20 with bilingual education programs, and 10 of those programs are transitional bilingual education programs. So here's just, our final map of District 20. At this point, we like to, turn it over to the council to ask any questions. We're happy to answer any questions. And, if anyone's not able to ask any questions tonight, we did share our email, so happy to answer questions through that medium as well.
Great. Perry and Jamie. There's so much here, and as Jamie said, it's not all to be covered tonight. Just a couple sort of high-level questions I wanted to pose to you both. What can CECs do? What is sort of effective to receive from CECs on your end? Just thinking about, Jamie, especially you've had the years of experience. What are things that work well as far as the working relationship, and it can help us to sort of guide our thinking and how to attack some of this information?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think kind of logistically, there are, again, some certain like chancellor's regulations and things like that you all are like really at the front lines of, and even the voting body in some cases. So there are certain things where it's going to be like really integral to have you all as a council. Let's say in the absence of something like a rezoning where we're not putting forth anything specific in terms of like changes in the district, it's really helpful for your council to kind of act as the liaison to us through your community and through your principals, particularly thinking about like individual school needs and having them bring that to you all. And then when we come to the table to think about holistic district planning, having, that lens from you all, having the superintendent and having us and the resources that we have available to us to think through these things analytically is really helpful. So I've seen that executed in a couple of ways. A really helpful way would be, which I think you guys have already started and has been really helpful, sitting down with that district data summary, kind of going through it like with just your council and synthesizing that with the information shared tonight and saying like, from this information and looking at these trends, like really examining where we are now, what are our biggest like strategic priorities for this district? Because things have shifted and changed a bit in past years. So it's not to say that like overcrowding or overutilization of buildings is not at the forefront of our priorities, but I think some things have also kind of moved around a bit, and there could really be some opportunity to refine like individual priorities for schools and then a district priority. So bringing that to us after you all have had a chance to really think through that is really helpful, because there are a lot of levers at our disposal that we can help to pull and to enact in order to move things forward and to make really significant changes. And I think it's also helpful for you all to tell us when we come to these meetings, or if we're working with your council or showing up in a public space, what's going to be impactful and helpful for your community to hear. So I'll just, one more quick example. When we worked on the rezoning that involved K746, we went to so many meetings. We were at each school this was pre-COVID, so we were there in person for months and months. And through that experience, we really got great in-person data, anecdotal data, all kinds of things that we directly informed the outcome of the rezoning. And so, we used rather to inform the outcome of the rezoning. And so I think, just interfacing with you all in many different ways is really important to us, but we're very kind of flexible to hear from you all and say like, whatever's going to work best for you. So a couple of examples again of how that's worked in other councils, but we really lean on the existing council, and especially if you have new members, like coming back to basics of like what we do, or if we need to review chancellor's regulations, like we're happy to do all of that with you guys. And so we're excited to kind of work on that partnership and make it fit for your council.
And simultaneously, I would just sort of, so we can understand the environment, you're working simultaneously with the district itself, meaning
Yep.
the superintendent and the principals of the schools. Is that correct?
I would say we work with principals only directly if we are thinking through either proposals or changes that impact that school community. So it's less frequent that we have principals kind of working directly with us. It's again more, I guess, through the superintendent. We lean on him as the instructional leader of the district. He has his own district kind of vision and plan and priority that we want to work through as well. And so in the lens of principals, I would say either through you or through the superintendent is going to be our best way to kind of hear. There's so many schools, obviously in District 20, and we work with most of South Brooklyn. So to kind of get that more personal or individualized lens from principals, we really lean on your council and on your superintendent.
Mm-hmm. Do any council members have questions for the Office of District Planning?
Yes, I wanted to ask, do we have a say of how the interior of the building is built, or like the traffic outside the buildings?
That's a good question. That would
Jamie.
Oh, sorry. I think I missed your last part.
Oh, like I'm saying, like you're the Office of District Planning. So like, do you listen to the parental input about how to fix the interior of the buildings, or like the traffic outside the buildings?
Yes. So it might not be us directly, but we, I think, are positioned in a really unique way in the department and also with other agencies to make sure we can find a solution if we're not the right folks. So I'm thinking of like facilities. We work really closely with the Office of School Facilities and Space Planning. Those are DOE offices. We also work really closely with the SCA, which is an external organization. And if there's something broken, or there needs to be repairs, or there's going to be really large scale work done in a building, it's going to be one of those 3 teams. So if they're not directly kind of aware or involved, we can always be helpful with that. We would probably connect you all with like school safety if we're thinking about any issues outside of the building. But I know we were in a pretty unique position when we opened K746 to think strategically about some like very unprecedented traffic and safety challenges happening outside of that building. And so we worked really closely with a lot of other city agencies that, just to be frank, was new for us. Like, we got all the right folks in the room to say, like, how do we put new traffic cameras here? How do we make sure that there is a new crosswalk here? We need school safety agents at these 3 places instead of these 2 places because of the way that the cars come off the highway ramp. And so, you know, we want to be helpful, even if it's not our specific work, but both of those things fall within something that we can easily kind of work on and connect you to the right folks.
Thank you.
Any other council members like to ask questions of the Office of District Planning at this time?
Steve,
Yes,
may I?
go ahead, Vito, please.
Hey, Jamie, how are you?
Good.
Long
good
time
to
no
see you.
see.
Yep.
So please bear with me. I have multi-part questions because that's just, the way I am. But so you said enrollment overall in the city declined from 2016 to 2020. So we're under the 1 million person mark. But enrollment in District 20 really didn't go by that same percentage. We're pretty much to stay the same or even increased a little bit. Is that correct?
At some grade levels, I would say your kindergarten enrollment is where we've seen the biggest change. So if you're looking kind of at that first chart where you see the kindergarten cohorts every year, if I'm not mistaken, 2017 was like the peak. And even just the couple additional 100 students in the district was like almost like an insurmountable challenge because we didn't have those new capacities that we have now. And I'm thinking about like the addition at 127 wasn't available. We didn't have the new elementary school at 746. So that's where we really got into, so I'm looking kindergarten in 2017-18 was about 4,300 students, which you can see is kind of like the peak there. So one of the things our office does is we work on kindergarten section planning and making sure that the number of kindergarten sections that a school is taking in is appropriate for the space that they have. And that job, while still very challenging in District 20, has gotten a little bit easier since 2017.
Can we leave that up?
Sure.
Thank you. So now, so in general then, do we know both in the district and citywide, has the school age population changed by a similar amount?
The school age population of incoming kindergarten students?
Right. So we know, are these kids choosing another option when it comes to their kindergarten or their other school years, both in the city and both in the district? So do we know if we have a bunch of the same amount of 5-year-olds and they're just not choosing to go to a public school?
In District 20, that does not look to be the case, and that's a huge generalization, but we don't have any charter offerings in the district. So in other parts of the city where we have a lot of charter school.
This includes charter schools, if I'm not mistaken.
This citywide includes charter schools, but there are.
I'm asking if we have more children choosing non-public schools, do we know that we have a population of incoming kindergartners that we expect? We know that they're alive. We have birth records for them, and they're just not choosing our schools.
In District 20 specifically, it looks as though those students and families are moving out of the district versus choosing other options in the district or other district options. And we have charts in here that show retention. So that's really important because that'll show you of those students, how many of them are choosing District 20 options. And it's the highest in the city. The retention is incredibly high. And so the narrative of choosing other options or going to charter schools is very prevalent in other parts of the city. I would not say that's overarching narrative for District 20.
When kids leave, you say retention. So when kids leave, and I think I'm probably going to ask you a general question, includes citywide. When kids leave and we don't retain them, does anybody do an exit interview? Does anybody see, well, where are you going and why? And would that be your department? Would that be enrollment? Who's going to care to see why children are leaving, why families are leaving? And just because if we don't know why they're leaving, then we can't address the issues, right? So whose job would that be?
Yeah, I would say, I just want to say clearly, I don't quite know the answer to your question, so we can certainly look into it. I know student enrollment does some process of an exit interview. I don't know how specific they get in terms of their data of like, are you moving to Delaware or are you moving outside of the city? Like, I don't know what that looks like, but they would be your first probably contact to think through that. And if they're not the folks, there might be a city agency that's helping to support that kind of like moving out of New York City data. And
what about a breakdown of people leaving by race, ethnicity, and also by economic need? Do you have anything like that?
We don't, but I would also defer you to student enrollment to kind of see first if they have that when they look at who's leaving.
Thank you. This is an easy question. The Santander Bank site on 89th Street, that's nowhere to be seen. That fell through. Can you just give me what happened to that?
I don't know. I would ask the SCA like as soon as they're up, because I don't know any like negotiation fall throughs or whatever happened with that.
SCA can speak to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you,
Perry.
Good to see you.
I'll answer that.
Oh, great.
Now that you're asking, Vito, the Santander Bank is going through. The Santander Bank was approved by the city council this past year, and the project has been purchased by the SCA.
Thank you so much. Is that nice when you got a positive thing, right?
Yes.
Since we're on the topic, and I think this might be an interesting case study in the question of, we hear this often that agencies want parents involved, they want the CEC involved. If I'm not mistaken, and I was going to ask this anyway after our formalities and introductions, but we might as well go right to it. Steve, we had a meeting last term, and then we've heard nothing since, I don't know what month it was, March maybe, or April or
Probably maybe
something?
March. Yes.
Why is that?
I can't answer.
You solicited our feedback and said, now we'll take this under advisement and think about what the project will look like. And so
Which one? Santander? We haven't even
Santander,
started- We haven't started the design yet. We have not even begun design.
Okay. For some reason, I thought the design was already begun and the
No.
school.
No, it has not.
Okay. Let's go to, we can, Jamie and Perry, I think we'll conclude the ODP presentation for right now. But if you guys, you're welcome to hang around if you can, because there may be other things that come up that cross into your domain as well. Steve, welcome. Thank you for being here. Steve Gonzalez, External Affairs Manager for School Construction Authority, joined by his team. And Steve, I'll let you introduce them and sort of introduce yourself and start your presentation.
Okay, well, let me just see. I'm assuming Zishan Ott is here. He is the Director of External Affairs. I'm looking down here now to see if he's here.
Yes, I'm here.
Bender, Andrea Bender is here. She is the Vice President of External Affairs. Diana Mendez is here from Capital Planning. I see Elias Stampolis, who is the Senior Project Officer for the SCA Construction Management for District 20. And I'm looking to see if there's anyone else. And that's it. That's who's on this call right now.
And I'll just interject. Perry and I will stick around for a little bit to answer any kind of crossover questions that come up, and we'll put it in the chat before we leave. But
all right, so I just go ahead and share the screen. Is that what I do? Go ahead and hit the.
Go ahead, Steve. Yep.
Host disabled participant screen sharing. What do I do? Hit OK.
Natalia, can you enable Steve?
Yeah, you should be able to access it now.
All right, share screen. Here we are. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll start. So this is we are the first, by the way. We are the first. You have the honor of being the first of 30 something CECs to have proposed amendment meetings this year. And as noted, this is for the 5-year capital plan, fiscal year 2020-2024. At tonight's meeting, we'll have a general overview of the fiscal year 2020, fiscal year 2024 capital plan, proposed amendment, your input and comments. SCA FY 2020-2024 capital plan and projects. The FY 2020-2024 capital plan is worth $20.6 billion. It's a total citywide. Capacity citywide will be $9.84 billion. That is new projects and additions. Capital investment, or like capital improvement projects like exterior. They're mostly projects that entail safety for our schools. They could be parapets, exterior masonry. So that's what consists of that, $7.26 billion. You have mandated programs. That could be the air conditioning initiative, ventilation. That's $3.51 billion. Let's see. Okay. SCA citywide highlights: $8.44 billion for over 60,000 new seats in fulfillment of the mayor's commitment to reduce overcrowding as well as advance equity. $1.41 billion in support of early learning, 3K, pre-K for all initiatives. $750 million to make 50% of elementary school buildings partially or fully accessible, and 1/3 of all buildings fully accessible. $261 million for electrical work to support air conditioning in all classrooms by the end of 2021. We have $1.01 billion for technology enhancements, $352 million to allow for TCU removals. That's ongoing. New capacity projects. New capacity, $6.34 billion. That's 45,000, a little over almost 46,000 seats. We have a replacement program of 7,080 seats for $1.6 billion. Class size reduction, 4,750 seats for $740 million. Capacity to remove TCUs, $302 million. That's 2,220 seats. Early education, $1.41 billion. We actually have a TCU removal going on at PS 179 in District 20. That's one of many TCU removals projects. So SCA fiscal year 2020-2024 new schools. We see here that are not cited. There are 5 of them. Borough Park, Kensington, Subdistrict, Borough Park, Kensington, Bensonhurst. There are 2 of them. One's for 451, one's 865. There are 2 projects in Diker Heights that have not been cited. We have one in what they call Owl's Head Park, Bay Ridge, for 744 for a total of 2,880 seats. Those seats have not been cited. In other words, we have not found sites for those projects. It's still in the 2020 5-year capital plan. Cited, 4 of them. We'll start, and this is very good news. I know that this has been a point of contention by many D75 advocates. We heard you, and during this past year, we have made efforts to fill up D75 seats. For instance, we are now going to open September 2024, a leased building, Our Lady of Guadalupe, the main building on 4814 72nd Street. That is strictly a D75 school, 132 seats. K322, originally it was strictly an IS. We didn't have D75 seats. We are adding 72, we are putting in 72 seats. So there'll be a total, this total of 475 seats. 403 are non-D75, 72 will be D75. And 676, which we had all put in from the start over at Angel Guardian Home, we have 96 D75 seats, total 451, non-D75, total 547. And we have the PS 6740 3rd Avenue, K53. We don't have D75 because it's a very, very small school. That's the one at the doctor's office. That's 6740 3rd Avenue. So that's a total of 1,000 total seats, 461, 300 D75 seats total.
That's great. Steve, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you please verify the address? That doesn't look right. I'm a Bay Ridge boy, 4814 72nd Street. That doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Well, I'll double check, but that's my understanding. I'll check.
Is it 481? Can you tell me what cross streets are maybe on 72nd Street? That would help.
Yeah, it's 15th Avenue. One's 15th.
Okay, so maybe you inverted the numbers. Maybe it's 1448.
It could be 1448.
Guys, I looked this up yesterday. It's 1514 72nd Street.
All right, we can change it. It's not a big deal.
I thought you were talking about Queens for a second.
No, I saw that. I saw the hyphen. I know the Queens addresses, they're hyphen. I know. Thank you. Vito.
Thank you, Steve.
No problem. So, okay, so we have 300 D75 seats. So we opened up in September. There's some photos of the PS 127 edition, 364 seats. Much needed there. I know Agatha is on this call, so I'm sure she's very, very happy. 6740 3rd Avenue. As I mentioned before, this is just a rendering, 307 seats. 650 86th Street. May I also add that is still in design of the 6743rd. This one, 600 IS 322, is going to mobilize in the next couple of months. We have a general contractor. We tore down Nathan's about a month and a half ago, about a month or so ago. So we have a general contractor. In fact, it's E.W. Howell. They're the GC, and they will be building this school. Next, the D75. Here it is. Here's the right address: 1514 72nd Street. That's also there. That's also again has begun design. Very preliminary design. We have 6312 13th Avenue. This is also Angel Guardian Home. This also has been awarded. We have Adams European. They are the GC, and they will be mobilizing in the near future. So we have pre-K and 3K initiatives. The capital plan recognizes the commitment and desire to implement a universal early childhood education program for 3 and 4-year-old children. They have 3 of them that we are anticipating, 2 of them for next year, the other one in 2024, the 3K Center at 337 74th Street, the 3K Center at 4802 New Utrecht Avenue. That's 2022. It's 195 seats. And pre-K Center at 412 63rd Street for 90 seats. That's for in 2024. Capital investment projects. Again, fiscal year 2020, 2024. Capital investment project.
Steve, before you go on, can I just say something?
Sure.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt. Good evening, everybody.
All right, go ahead, Dave.
Thanks so much. My name's, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. David Preto. I'm the community superintendent. I just wanted to speak on a couple of the announcements that Stevie made regarding some of the sites that are coming online for the district. We were all very excited, and especially regarding the Our Lady of Guadalupe site and the Angel Guardian site being able to be eventually identified as D75 sites. This was some work that we have been doing in response to the data and seat need in the district that was identified, and in response to the community input alongside that data piece. We're really hoping to be able to recognize a lot of the folks in the community as well as within the DOE who were able to respond to this need and make this happen, and be able to kind of honor their advocacy for our most vulnerable students in the district, and be able to, if not completely significantly close the gap of middle school seats in D75. So I really have to thank a lot of folks in our community, as well as in the DOE, from the Deputy Chancellor's Office on down, district planning folks, including Jamie, and the Executive Superintendent Barbara Freeman, for supporting our efforts and being able to ensure that these seats were allocated to the children who demonstrated the need and where the seat capacity was required. So I just wanted to say that to make sure that anybody who really was pioneering the work and advocating for our most vulnerable kids were able to kind of get the due credit they get for making sure that we were able to get this thing done. So I just want to make sure we were able to note that before you go on with your presentation. Thanks, Steve, for letting me jump in.
No problem. Thank you. And David, thank you for giving the credit where credit is due. I mean, it's a joint effort between district planning, your office, and also the SCA. So we appreciate the hard work. It's a real team effort. So moving forward on capital investment projects, the SCA performs major capital improvement work, as I mentioned before, in existing buildings, in addition to building new schools. This work includes projects such as masonry repair, window and roof replacement, new boilers, HVAC systems, new fire alarm systems, public address systems, electrical upgrades, repairing major plumbing issues, removal of TCUs, which I referred to before, and playground rehabilitation. The DOE's Division for School Facilities, DSF, which includes our school's custodial engineers, plant managers, facility directors, and DSF central staff, are responsible for day-to-day maintenance and repair of school buildings. Our agencies are separate, but they work to get closely together to maintain our New York City schools. Now, how does something become a capital project in the SCA's 5-year capital plan? Well, there are a number of avenues. I'll go over them. I've done this in the past, but I'll do it again for new people who are here on the CEC and those who are not familiar with how a capital project is funded. In addition to the suggestions we do get from the community education councils, they submit their lists every year, and they duly do it, and they do a great job of coordinating their lists by speaking to principals in terms of what they should have on their lists, their top 5 priority lists. So the first is the Building Condition Assessment Survey, BCAS. SCA has a consultant that assesses every school in the city. The yearly Building Condition Assessment Survey, BCAS. BCAS reports for every school building. They're available on the DOE's website on each school's individual page. If there is a problem that, for whatever reason, got by BCAS, but it's an emergency, DSF will refer that problem and send it as which we call a red dot, and they'll send it to the SCA. If they determine the needed repair is very large, complex, and costly, as I just mentioned, it may be referred to the SCA for an assessment. In emergencies, which we have done a number of times, we also do immediate make-safe repairs. Funding from elected officials. These are predominantly RESOA. I'll go over that in a minute. The local New York City Council member, borough president, or state elected officials may also fund projects. We also have citywide initiatives, the mayoral and city council initiatives such as physical education for all and the air conditioning program. So, District 20 capital investment. We have 86 projects, major highlights. Electrical, 27, 15 million. The vast extent of our capital investment projects, you can see, is almost 98 million. Exterior masonry projects, there are 19 of them. We have 2 gyms that are almost 10 million total. Parapets have 14, which are 24.3. Playgrounds, we have 6.5. Roofs, 40 million. Another big ticket item, 17 projects. We have 2 science labs. We have one window project for a total of 201 million. So that's a nice piece of change for District 20. So for the 5-year capital plan, capital investment and mandated projects, we see, I'll go down to them. These are capital investment and mandated projects. Boiler conversion, there's 2, almost 10 million. I mentioned exterior masonry before, 17.7, parapets, 13.2. Windows, 2 for 11.783. We have a number of student toilet projects. There are 11 of them, almost 800,000. So flood elimination, we have almost 6 million. As you know, many of our schools in District 20 are old, and they're constantly needing to have water penetration projects to shore up any issues that we have with flood elimination. So capital improvement projects, we had Fort Hamilton, we have PS 104, we have PS 170, PS 200. All these projects are under construction. PS 229. I know Javier is on the call, so he'll see his school. Funding from elected officials. Many important capital projects in schools are funded by members of the New York City Council, the Borough President's Office, or state elected officials. So as you can see, first of all, I want to give a shout out to, well, he's the outgoing Borough President, and he's taking on a new job. I wonder what that job is. But want to give a very special shout out to our future mayor, Eric Adams, for all the work that he's done in terms of Reso A projects. He's sponsored a number of them in the smart board categories. I know Justin Brannon has been very, very helpful with the Reso A funding. I thank him for all the work that he's done. The other two, we have an outgoing council member. He's chair of the education committee, but he's leaving at the end of the month. He's got a couple schools in District 20, and that's Mark Traeger. And we have Kalman Yeager, who is also has a number of schools in District 20. So I just wanted to give out a shout out to them, and many thanks to all what they've done. Reso A projects, here we have an auditorium upgrade at Junior High School 220. And we have a room conversion to PS 176. So we also have, and we're highlighting this for the first time because we feel that this program is very, very important to the SCA and for giving minority women and local-based contractors and individuals the chance to participate in our program. We're dedicated to increasing participation of minority-owned and women-owned and locally based business enterprises, we call MWLBEs. So we do a lot of certification. And we have a mentor program that we run. And a lot of these Reso A projects are through the mentor program. We provide key support. We give training to our mentor contractors who are starting and working with us, and access to capital and business opportunities for qualified emerging MWLBEs. This program has been in place since the early 1990s, and it's been very, very successful. First, it was under Mike Garner, who now heads the MWLBE program for the state, and now it's Suzanne Vieira, vice president, who took over from Mike, and who she and her staff have done an outstanding job. So, having said that, District 20 MWLBE Participation and Mentor Program. In fiscal year 21 citywide, we awarded $558,863,141 in prime MW and LBE contracts across 409 projects to 128 firms. That's fiscal year 2021. This district alone, we have funded $31 million in active MWLB contracts across 32 projects to 25 firms this fiscal year. And in fiscal 21, the SCA Mentor Program awarded 81 million, almost 82 million MWLB contracts across 249 projects to 93 firms. So CEC requests. The CEC has a voice in requesting capital projects as well. I mentioned that before. Each year, the CECs are asked to fill out a form indicating priority projects in schools in your districts. We ask, again this year, as we've done in the past, to prioritize your top 5 as those will be reviewed first. Remember, and I say this not just to you guys, but to my other CEC out in Staten Island, that SCA does major capital renovations only. Please carefully consider whether the projects you are prioritizing are capital eligible. For everyday repairs in schools, maintenance, principals should request repairs from the custodians and DSF. Capital projects must provide a permanent enhancement with a lifespan of at least 5 years and minimum cost of $50,000. So having said that, here is the form, and you have till January 14th. So you have another 5 weeks to have this filled out and send it into the SCA. And at this time, I think that completes my presentation. And thank you. My contacts are there. And the reservoir management specialist for District 20 is Bennett Brook. Thank you, guys.
Great. Thanks so much, Steve. Just a few questions that I wanted to lead off with. Prioritizing projects. We had an email exchange about this, and I just wanted to get more clarification because this is something that, as you just mentioned, is a CEC responsibility. I'll admit to being still a little bit, I still have some sort of open questions about how to do it, and maybe I can, to be specific.
Fair enough.
Let me just focus in on this one, for example. We emailed briefly about the bathroom projects, right? And I think it's safe to say that bathroom upgrades are that's definitely something that SCA, that's within your purview, that we should think about prioritizing. Is that safe to say?
Yes, but I want to explain, and I'll repeat what I said to you in the email that I sent to you.
Yeah.
There is SCA has a bathroom upgrade capital program that's done citywide. We do, with this bathroom upgrade, we do prioritize schools that have the most critical capital needs. If you wish to put a bathroom upgrade there, you may. I will stress that you do not list a bathroom upgrade program that you were wishing to renovate adult and staff bathrooms, because that's not part of the upgrade. We only focus on renovating student bathrooms.
So
I just want to finish my train of thought. The adult and staff bathrooms are either renovated through DSF or reservoir funding.
Okay. So it sounds like you have an ongoing program that exists.
That is correct.
Separately from the annual capital amendment program. Is that what I heard you say, or?
I think it's part of this capital plan.
They're the same. They're part and parcel.
I believe they are. Yes.
And I guess let's focus. So your statement, you prioritize ones that have the most critical capital needs.
That is correct. Yes.
There's sort of a disconnect here, right, between a group of elected parent volunteers trying to prioritize. And I understand we can look at the blue book and we can do a walkthrough of the school, although that's sort of easier said than done. But can we just sort of have access before we rank the projects to know? I mean, if you guys have already done the assessment, it'll help us guide prioritizing things, because just for the benefit of those on the Zoom right now who don't know, we requested a number of bathroom upgrades last year.
Yes, I know. And you mentioned one specifically. You mentioned K192.
Right. And so we met in some of the ones we ranked higher. I'm mostly saying this for all the new CEC people, I know you know, Steve, but we ranked some projects higher and those were not approved. But then some of the ones we ranked lower were approved. We want to try and I guess it sort of calls into question the whole ranking process anyway. If you guys already know which ones are the most urgent needs,
I would have to speak to capital planning and see what this is a question that has to go to capital planning.
Is capital planning?
That's Karen Mayer, Karen Marr, Eric Martier.
Right. They work with you, right?
Yes. They're a separate division, but they do work with us. Yeah, we're part of the SCA. Yes.
They're not here. I'm used to seeing them. I miss them.
Well, they're not here today, but that's okay. I'm here and I will forward your question to them.
Okay. The 127 that you mentioned as well, Steve, just, that's also a bathroom, sort of ongoing bathroom project. That one, you said it did get approved this year.
Yes, 170,000, and it will be funded through the same upgrade program part of the 5-year plan. I don't have a time frame when it will start or when it will be awarded. I know
Okay.
170,000. And I know that Agatha asked me today, because I think she mentioned to you that
Mhm.
Pamela Harris, the former assemblywoman,
Mhm.
provided 250 for bathrooms. Again, there is I would have to check. There's a gentleman, I think his name is Graham Gordon, I think is his name.
Yeah, that's right. He's the procurement officer.
Yes, but he handles the state projects. So
Mhm.
I will tell you that I did speak to Bennett Baruch today, and he forwarded an email to him for questioning about where that money is.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
all right.
That's good to know. And I take your guidance on projects. So just to sort of, help us further our ranking process, you've mentioned a number of circumstances where projects are generally funded through ResOA. Are we
Yes,
well advised to rank when we submit projects to you? Are we well advised to put auditoriums? I mean, you guys approved a couple auditorium upgrades, right?
Yes, we have. If you wish to put them on your list, be my guest. But again, those are projects that could also be funded through the city council.
Right. Okay. So
or through the future borough president, Mr. Reynoso's office.
Right. Would you say there's kind of an equal, the way your email made it sound, we'd be better off just submitting those through ResOA or prioritizing?
Yes, I would agree.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Bathroom upgrades. In terms of the sort of the projects, case studies for successful site acquisition, what do you recommend? I mean, is there something that you've seen work successfully? There's always this talk about CECs and sort of getting involved and looking for sites.
Yes, I do encourage that, Steve. If you have, we do have a real estate division that is constantly looking for properties where we can look for possible potential sites. I mean, we don't always find them. You sometimes have more of an inside track than we do. So it would be a big help if you have a site that's at least 25, 30,000 square feet that might be agreeable to a future capacity project. By all means, email it to me and I'll forward it to our real estate division.
Right. Do you mind if I ask just sort of some general questions about sort of SC? I don't know if I need to. SCA versus the DOE. I mean, you guys report directly into the DOE, or are you an independent agency on that front?
Independent.
You're independent, and so who is the head of the SCA?
It's Nina Kubota.
And is
the president of the SCA.
Okay, president, and is she appointed by the mayor?
Yes, she is.
Okay. My question, I'm in funding for the SCA, the SCA budget, just to get a sense of what's available year to year. Funding is provided through the city budget process. Is that correct?
Yeah, but we're a capital agency. You mentioned, and I'll go off this a bit because you mentioned the fact about the federal stimulus funding.
Right.
So we deal with capital funding only. We are a capital agency. So we're not eligible for expense funding. Stimulus funding is expense funding. It goes through to the DOE. We are capital funding agency.
Right. There's a couple things that and again, we don't need to answer this definitively here tonight, but there were a couple things that interested me. One of which was, and I did a lot of work into this, was looking at the things that the federal stimulus funding can be spent on. And one of them is capital funding. And specifically, it's pursuant to, I'm just looking this up so I get the right, per the interim, I just want to cite the right law. The American Rescue Plan Act authorizes spending on any activity authorized by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act itself states that new construction is authorized in order to improve programs under the act. And so that's a specific instance of where federal stimulus money can be used on new construction. And then I was told, like I told you in the email, I was told explicitly by the senators on the Education, Budget and Finance Committee that that federal stimulus money can be used on capital spending. Now, I know there's a disconnect between someone like yourself who's actually working on the ground and senators in the state Senate, but I just keep coming to this. If there's so much money going around right now, and I know what you're saying about the city and the operating budget, and all the money went to a variety of programs, some of which may never be executed. I just really strongly think it's in the best interests of education in District 20 to try and advocate for some of this one-time stimulus money being used to accelerate our projects in the district. And I guess it'd be interesting just to know, like, in terms of your, the budget, I mean, everyone always reads about the city budget and how constrained it is or not, but so what you're telling me is the SCA budget has not changed at all. Essentially, your
What do you mean it hasn't changed?
capacity as a result of the federal stimulus funding. Is that correct?
Well, not with the federal stimulus money. It's the
Yeah.
capital.
The capital budget. And so
Capital budget. That's changed. So I mean, look, I'll talk to our capital planning people again. Again, I've had discussions with them about this, and that's what I've been told. And
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
hoping-
mean, all I can ask is you do that. I appreciate that.
I will.
Steve. And
I will
you see
ask.
my point, right? Like, what better thing to spend one-time money on than buying sites and building new schools? But if you guys have all the money you need, and I can't answer that, I don't know, then maybe it's a moot point, right? But I have to imagine you'd be happy to take some stimulus money and allocate it to some of the unsighted projects that we could possibly move on. I don't know. It's just me talking.
I hear you. That's
Stephen, my
All
name is
right,
Andrea
I'm gonna let
Bender.
Andrea-
I'm the
Andrea's
vice president.
talking.
Yes, I'm the vice president of external affairs at the SCA, and I want to thank you so much for your question about this topic. I think it is a really important topic. The city's lawyers have determined that the federal stimulus money, because the goal behind the stimulus money and some of the requirements that underpinned the stimulus are to push that money out the door quickly, that it cannot be used for capital expenses. So that money has gone to the expense budget, the city's operating budget, which, as Steve mentioned, is not the way that we are funded. We are funded on a 5-year cycle in our 5-year capital plan. Our 5-year capital plan was adopted in fiscal year 2020. To fund us through fiscal 2020 to fiscal 2024. At the end of that fiscal, we will develop a new plan, and the contours of our plan will be set at that time, and funding can be added for new programs. We got an infusion of several $100 million as the mayor announced the 3K for All expansion, or we add funding when council members and borough presidents and state senators and assembly members generously give us funding for Reso A projects. Those are the main ways that we add funding to our budget. But we're not part of the city's budget adoption cycle the way that the expense agencies are. We do not have any expense funding at the agency at all. So we're funded on a 5-year cycle via our capital plan. And unfortunately, none of the federal stimulus money is available to us for school construction.
Well said. Appreciate the comments.
Sure.
Yeah, no, if it probably isn't worth me sort of going on about this, but if, again, there's money's, if you're talking to lawmakers and money's fungible, and but anyway, it's fine. We can move on. Steve, on the unsighted projects, I was just curious about those. And
yes,
I think that's been help us understand, like, are those literally just looking for a plot of land to purchase? And if so, how do you guys come up with the numbers on the projected number of seats if we don't have the land purchased yet?
Yeah, the 4 unsighted projects are based on properties that we would look for. And again, that's determined by our capital planning in terms of seat need. And we work with district planning with Jamie and District 20 planning in terms of coming up with a seat need for those sites, even though they're not cited.
But it's purely, I mean, really, we should look at those numbers because I did. I
Sure,
sort of plot these
absolutely
numbers out
should,
on
yes.
on a sheet, and I, look at future capacity and whatnot. But they're purely, I mean, it's safe to say they're purely hypothetical at this point, right?
I'm not sure if they'd be hyper. Andrea, can you answer
What I
that?
would say is not so much that they're hypothetical, but that they're aspirational. For example, in in the Borough Park subdistrict, we would love to find a site that's large enough to seat 865.
You forgot my water.
However, if we found 3
No,
sites that
don't
seated
shush me.
451,
Where's
I
my
think that
water?
we have a hard time finding seats in your part of Brooklyn. And so I think, we would love to find a site that's large enough to seat all 865. However, if we found 3 sites that seated 4 and change that added up to that total number, we might proceed with that. It's more efficient for us to build a larger school because it means we have to build certain components of the building fewer times, generally speaking, but it's not that we would not proceed if we found 3 sites that were appropriate to fit our funded seat need that's outlined in that very hard to read chart in our capital plan. Does that make sense? So it's not that they're hypothetical, it's that, really we're looking for one PS, one PS or PS, one small PS, one medium-sized PS, or maybe one PSIS, depending on what land is available to us. And yes, as Steve said, we would love all of your suggestions for real estate. We're generally looking for 20,000 square feet. We're looking for 2 street frontages to facilitate busing. We are looking for properties where there are not buildings built to the lot line on either side, because we've got to be able to have windows in all of our classrooms. And obviously, if there are buildings that abut the property line, that's problematic from placing classrooms. I believe there's a section on our website that gives our criteria. I can drop that into the chat. It also includes suggestions for how to send any real estate ideas that you might have in your community. And frankly, we've been searching very, very hard in that Borough Park subdistrict for a while, and we would take any suggestions that you have in any part of your district, but I would say it has been particularly challenging for us in Borough Park.
The 3 sub-districts, do you guys have a map of those that you can provide? Because I think I've seen before that they don't exactly correlate with what people might think of as, well, anyway, do you guys have a map of those 3 sub-districts that you can
I
show?
think it's DOE's map, but we can probably get it.
And yeah, it would be great to see the full list of criteria you just mentioned.
Sure.
Because that's helpful. So sort of as a case study then for, Santander, let's just circle back to that one, the Santander site.
Sure.
What happens next on that, Steve?
Well, what happens next? As I mentioned before, the property has been approved by the city council. We purchased it. We not only purchased the Santander Bank site, we also purchased some storefronts, I believe it was on 89th Street. There were a couple of them like on a corner.
Okay.
So what's next then? And again, we don't have a time frame that we would look to start design. But again, I don't have a time frame for that.
Okay. Who determines that time frame?
Our capital planning, CM.
We have a number of projects that we anticipate authorizing in the next quarter to 6 months, 3 to 6 months, and we just need to balance them appropriately to ensure that our consultants have the bandwidth to take on all of the projects that we're authorizing at the same time. This is in that tranche of projects. We need to make sure that we're not overloading our consultants with work, and we just need to balance it appropriately. But that Santander site is coming very soon.
Okay. And then at what point would you have, community hearings, public hearings on the project?
So the public hearings are done as part of our acquisition process, our site selection process, when we appear before this body and the community board for our site selection process. And then we go before city council, who authorizes us to purchase the property. So that's all finished.
Now, it says on your website, aren't there follow-up presentations after the project is approved by the New York City Council, a design is completed and construction schedule has been determined?
We can present to this body and the community board if that is desired.
Okay.
That is not something that is part of our required process.
But you'll work with the, it'll, as far as planning for the project and determining what kind of project it is, that was last spring's meeting. Is that
Right.
correct?
That is correct.
That's our chance to have input. The prior CEC, that's the input on the Santander site.
Right.
Yes, yes.
How has that shaped your thinking on the site? Were there any conclusions that sort of you took away from that and sort of are using in guiding the sort of the thinking about the design and whatnot?
I think we hear the same concerns. We've heard the same concerns in this community that we typically hear from most communities around the city, which is traffic noise and parking. And so we're pretty well versed in addressing those issues. I think the shape of the parcel is a little bit challenging for us on this site. But again, we haven't started design yet, so we haven't really delved fully into that, all those questions.
Okay. And was the type of school determined?
Yes, when we go to public review, we must disclose the seat number and the program of the school. So we went to public review for, I believe it is a 700 and change seat elementary school.
Okay. Even though there's 2 elementary schools literally within blocks of that one.
Our seat need in your community is on the elementary school level.
And specifically within that part of Bay Ridge?
Well, so all of our projects are cited on a sub-district wide level, not necessarily in a neighborhood.
Okay.
I just have a question, given, this regarding the 6740 Third Avenue site. So has ground been broken? Do you have a contractor?
No, we do not. We do not. We have not broken ground. We own the property. But we have not broken ground and we do not have a contractor yet.
This is still in design?
Yes, it's still in design. It's not gone out to bid.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Steve?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, both Steves. So, but no, Steve Gonzalez, can you please explain the bidding process and where it's listed and who can bid? I know you want to use locally owned businesses when you can with the mentoring program, but what does that exactly mean in practice?
Basically, what happens is that this program is run by the Business Development Division of the SCA, and they what they do first is they pre-qualify mentor contractors. They pre-qualify them and they certify them. They put them on a list. I don't know the total number of vendors who are on that list. I don't know the total number of vendors, and what they do is then they justify, because I used to work in business development. So I worked as part of this mentor program over 10 years ago. So what they did is that they put a number of potential mentor contractors and gave them a chance to bid on specific mentor contracts. That's how it was worked. Normally they would run I'm just guessing because I don't know now. Normally they used to run 7 or 8 contractors per bid, but that's how it was run. It's basically run. It's basically put out the bid in terms of all those contractors that pre-qualified and were certified by the SCA.
Where do
In
we
other
list
words,
the
somebody can't walk off the list. Somebody can't walk off the street and bid on this mentor program. They can't bid. They have to be pre-qualified as part of this program, and they have to be certified.
So the contract for this school, it doesn't go out to the New York Times. It goes out to all of the contractors that already have been pre-approved?
That is correct.
What about the public's right to view the building specs and the contract specs and all that stuff? Where can the public view it?
I believe that, Andrea, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that we do advertise on our SE website. Am I correct? I believe we do.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to propose, I'm going to propose now, we have, I know we have a number of principals on the call, and I think it would be a good chance for them to just sort of ask any questions specifically of you, Steve, and perhaps of the ODP folks if they're still here. So are there any principals on the call who would like to speak and ask questions? And if so, feel free to just unmute yourself or raise your hand in the chat or something. And Steve, while we're waiting, just one more question I have, sort of, K through 8 is our obvious domain. Working with all the various other organizations that also represent schools in the district, for example, high school, D75, CCSE. How do these organizations work directly with you guys in terms of developing new schools? I mean, high school is a huge need in the district. Do you guys work directly with those different councils and the high school district superintendent, for example? Steve, you're muted.
Steve, you're muted. Yes, we do. In fact, we just presented to the high school CEC about 2 hours ago. And we work very closely with the high school council. When we do site selection for high schools, we go before that body as opposed to the geographic district. We go before the high school CEC.
Okay, and same for D75 and CCSE?
D75, we do a presentation because we have capital programs that are specific for D75. CCSE does not have a capital component, and so we encourage those family members, those board members to attend in their geographic district because that's where the capital spending would occur for those programs.
Okay, so for example, parents in this district who might be involved with CCSE and have interest in special education facilities, not D75, but
right,
more generally,
they should attend their geographic district.
Like the CEC geographic district.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. I see 2 hands up. I apologize, I didn't see. Okay, I see 1 hand up. Jane Kapitanakis, Jane Marie Kapitanakis. Go ahead.
And Steve, Steve Gonzalez, I just wanted to remind you, PS 69 is also under construction. We too have a
yes, I know.
I know, but we want to make sure that our is aware that we too are on the timeline there of improvements around District 20. And I know that as I drive around the district or walk around the district, we see many things happening all over, lots of different improvement plans. I think so many of our schools have also gotten new roofs and things of that nature. So just to share that out.
That is correct,
well.
Jane. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Agatha, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. This conversation has been going on since 2016, so I just wanted to bring it up again, that our school was awarded $250,000 for bathroom upgrades, and then we were also awarded $50,000 for a screen for the multi-purpose room, but then that stopped because we were getting the new addition. So that $50,000 went towards the $250,000, which is a total of $300,000, but nothing has happened since 2016, 2017. So conversations have been going on and on, emails have been going back and forth, but I don't know what to do next. So if there's any guidance, any type of.
Okay, so I'll repeat what I said before to Steve. After we spoke today on the phone, and you told me about the numbers, the funding from former Assemblywoman Pamela Harris, We did put out an email to someone at the DOE who handles these state funding projects through state assemblymen and state senators. And he's looking into it. I did mention to you, and I will repeat it again for the courtesy of everyone here. You may want to reach out to her successor, Natalie Frontis, Assemblywoman Frontis, and speak to her.
It's very hard to get funding drawn down from state grants. It is universally hard across the state, and it is true for us as well. And it takes a very long time. Unfortunately, the state's process is very opaque, to put it kindly. We will check into it, but know that it is an incredibly difficult process drawing down funds from the state.
My understanding, Andrea, is that unfortunately, when Agatha was told about this funding, it was right before, well, what happened to Ms. Harris. She had a tough situation that happened to her, and she had to leave office. And that's why that, I guess that this is falling through the cracks. So we have to look to see where it's going, where it is.
If I may add, we did reach out to Mathilde Frontis.
Yes.
And she did mention that, you know, it's moving through the system. I guess, you know, she's reached out.
Okay.
And we heard, but we don't really understand what that means. And there's also one detail where there is a line item that we're being told is no longer eligible. And the reason why I'm speaking for Ms. Alejandro is, you know, I'm the school liaison, and Steve and I have been, Steve Stowe and myself have been kind of delving into all of the prior emails. There is a line item that is no longer eligible, something called the TGG fee. And we just want to clarify, if there is a line item for, and it's for around $30,000 that is not eligible, does that mean, and, you know, obviously Ms. Alejandro would like to have that, you know, 30,000 applied to the bathroom renovations, but we just want to make sure that the fact that there is a line item in the grant that's no longer eligible, it doesn't hold up the disbursement of the grant altogether. Like, that's basically my question. If there is a line item that's not eligible, does Ms. Alejandro need to find, you know, something eligible? Can she just say the rest of it will be used for bathroom upgrades because, you know, they're much needed and the money doesn't cover all that's needed?
That's a conversation that Agatha, you would have to have with the Assemblywoman Frontis's office.
I think let us chase it down with DOE. We're probably going to need to deal with DASNY, which is the pass-through at the state level for this funding. And we're going to need to see what information they have on a scope report, what this line item might be, if it's integral to the project and can't be. I think let us chase this information down and come back to you with what our understanding of where things are is, and see how we can solve it.
That sounds great. Thank you for the offer, Andrea.
Yeah.
What about the $50,000 that was supposed to be added to the 250? That was with William Kleiss. Do I start over and go, and I don't even know like where to go with that? Because that $50,000, we do have a scope of work. I have the project ID number. I have the description from November 2016. So I have all the emails, all the documentation. I just don't know what to do with it.
Is that another state grant?
Yes, it was $50,000, but we said it was going to go towards the 250 that was given to us. So it was supposed to be a total of 300.
So my guess is that if it was indicated to the state that these two grants were to be bundled together, my guess is that's exactly what's happened. And that would probably be why they're both held up together. And that the only way to separate them is to separate them.
Do you have emails, Agatha?
I think if you can send us that correspondence, it would be helpful to us to chase that down.
Yes, Agatha, please forward it to me.
I have all the documentation.
Please, thank you. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Agatha.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from any council members, or should, I think at this point it's 9:03, we should probably move on.
I have one very quick question.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Sure.
I saw the planning with on a huge budget amount. I'm just wondering, how does those estimates come up?
Which estimates?
I mean, we do like we have millions of dollars for the windows replacement, for the bathroom upgrade. I'm just wondering, how does those dollar amounts come up?
Those amounts come through our capital investment budget, and it's determined again through BCAS, the extent and or from the CEC of how much damage is involved, how much work is involved, and that's that funding is determined by capital planning, our capital planning division.
Well, I understand it might come from capital planning division, but what's the criteria to come up with this dollar amount? I mean, I know the bathroom in my house need to be replaced, but I wouldn't know how much it is until I get in touch with the contractors and such things. At this moment, we say we don't have we didn't reach out to contractor yet, and so I was wondering, like, who is coming up in the department? Who is coming up with this? I mean, which department is coming up with these things, and what is that based on?
Again, as I said, it's based upon the amount of work that has to be done on these projects. It could entail a lot of this work involves asbestos abatement, like you mentioned about work in your house. But unfortunately, a lot of our buildings are very old, so there is a lot of cost factors in terms of abatement that has to go into these projects. Also, a lot of these projects have consulting engineers, architects. So any costs that are involved with the consulting architects are also included in these project dollars. So there's a lot of factors that are involved in terms of making up this number, like for it to be in terms of award. I'm just citing you several examples. And abatement plays a big part of this, if I may add, because again, a lot of these projects are old and they have not been abated, and we have to do asbestos abatement. It's a big issue in our school, especially the older schools in the district and citywide.
Steve, I thought asbestos abatement was, once you knew that there was asbestos abatement that was necessary, that was a whole separate thing that wasn't even included. That was a separate budget that's not included in a capital project. That's a separate thing that the city does or the state does, no?
No, it's part of the capital project. The abatement's done when we have a contractor, because the contractor's got to it has to hire an abatement contractor. We have to hire an abatement monitor. It's included in the cost.
In the cost. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome, Vito.
This question, I'm sorry, I know I said we were going to conclude, but this one just came into my head as I was thinking more about the geography of the schools we've talked about.
Sure.
I'm thinking about the Santander site, and I'm thinking about the new D75 school in Bensonhurst. If there's a number of general education elementary schools already around the Bay Ridge site, and I think Andrea mentioned earlier, it's been especially tough to find sites in Borough Park, which I think is more or less corresponding to Bensonhurst. Why not put the D75 school right in Bay Ridge and the general elementary school over in Bensonhurst at that site? I'm just curious if that idea has any, am I off base there? Am I missing something, or?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Andrea, but I think that what happened was that, as we have done in other boroughs, that this site became available to us through the Diocese of Brooklyn, and we decided to take advantage of this. I mean, we already have leased. Let me finish my train of thought. Yeah. We've already leased an annex right down the block, so which is part of PS 112.
And I would also say that at that site, there was overwhelming desire on the part of the community and the elected officials to make that site a dedicated D75 site. That was a strong ask that was made of us. And so we pursued it for that reason.
Steve, as you remember, last year's CEC, we had a lot of advocates for D75.
I'm not, you guys.
made it very clear to us. And we're responding to them.
No, you're missing my point, because I don't want to
Okay.
be misquoted on this. My point
Okay.
is, why not swap the location? If you have a general, Santander is proposed to be a third general elementary school, right?
Right.
And there's 2 elementary schools literally within blocks of it. Whereas I heard earlier that within sort of the Bensonhurst area, there's sort of it's very hard to find. I think most of our overcrowded schools are in that area, if I'm not mistaken. And so why not swap the locations? You could meet the, place the D75 school in Bay Ridge, and then place the elementary school in an area that is more overcrowded to begin with.
Steve, we actually talked about this at a previous meeting. Since
Right.
264 has a D75 elementary school, and these kids could port right up the block to a D75 middle school.
Right.
I'm thinking maybe it's a time thing where we want to get it done as quickly as possible. But when could Santander be ready to go?
Yeah, and if I can just jump in really quickly, I want to also ground us a little bit in some of the extreme crowding needs we have, not only across the district. So sub-districts aside, like we have pervasive overcrowding for general education students across District 20. We also have District 75 students in their residential areas traveling really extreme distances. Even if there's another offered site in District 20, which you can see at the middle school level, almost doesn't exist currently. So the first part, to Vito's point, our main priority in making sure that we have worked to rectify or start to rectify that second problem I mentioned is getting those sites online and available for students as soon as possible. But I don't want to suggest that there's one area or pocket of the district that isn't experiencing both of these competing needs. So I think it's really about understanding like where's the capacity, what's the overall need in the district, and how can we use capacities as they become available to meet one or both of these needs. We have some districts in the city where there's a neighborhood of overcrowding and we have significant excess space in other parts of the district. That's not the case here. So, I hear the question about like, maybe it's more needed here, or if we switch them, they're going to better align to the need. But I want to ground us again, just in how serious the need is, and for all kinds of different student populations and kind of the way these capacities are coming online, we're able to meet those needs a little bit more urgently by kind of fulfilling whatever is going to be easiest to
Because
travel to and to get to when they're available.
Right, and wouldn't the Santander site, I mean, that one's more advanced in the process now, correct? I mean, it's already been approved and.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, again,
The Our Lady of Guadalupe site is a leased facility, which does not require us to go through public review because it is not an acquisition. So we are already well into design on that site. I would anticipate bringing that site online a couple of years before Santander.
Got it. Okay.
And again, I'm going to speak a little bit off the cuff here. I will have to go back and look at the public review documents for the Santander site. It might be a large enough site that it could accommodate D75 seats in addition to gen ed seats. I honestly do not know what the public review commitments were, but we can certainly track that down.
And if I could just jump in here for a second too, just speaking to the need, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just, trying to speak to need at ends of the district as well as the overall seat need in D75. The seat need was in middle school. And with the combination of the shift of being able to provide now D75 seats at the Nathan site, which is a middle school, and on the Bay Ridge side of the district, as well as at the Our Lady of Guadalupe site that's on the Bensonhurst side, the Nathan site is, very close to Santander, and kind of, is addressing that need. Most significantly, what Jamie was referring to was having a large number of really vulnerable children being bused out of the district for long periods of time, hours and a day on a bus, to be able to get to school and back every day. And this shift is going to be able to allow that to cease. So that's
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm fully in agreement with that. That's excellent.
I see
Principal-
Jane
Yep.
has her hand up.
I was about to call on her. Yep. Principal Kapitanakis?
I just wanted to also add to the conversation that when we did have some of those public meetings, and I know it was definitely brought up in Community Board 10, that parents had also advocated that if there was not a site large enough for a high school, that if there could be a site considered for a high school annex, citing the overcrowding at Fort Hamilton High School. So, while I understand that's not a decision that's in our purview, perhaps, I think it's important to bring that consideration to the table whenever we talk about the overcrowding, because our high school is really bursting as well.
Thank you so much for raising that. I do want to say that we calculate high school seat need at the borough-wide level, not at the geographic district level, and we do not show a need for high school seats across the borough of Brooklyn right now.
What about Fort Hamilton, which is almost 200% capacity?
Yes, we do not solve crowding problems at the school level. We solve for high schools at the borough-wide level, and there is capacity in the borough of Brooklyn at the high school level.
Andrea, with all due respect, what you're saying is you want kids to travel from Bay Ridge in one end of the district to another end of the district, an entirely different neighborhood in an underutilized school that doesn't have the programs that Fort Hamilton High School has. You need to upgrade the programs. If you want to make some of those underutilized schools, turn them into specialized high schools, turn them into great screen schools, that
I
might be
hear
a way-
you.
that might be a way to drag people in to those things, the same way Mark Twain was originally an underperforming school, and they turned it into a flagship school over a period of 10 years.
I hear you. SCA does not do programming. So on the capacity construction level, we're looking at high school enrollment across the borough. And right now we do not see a capacity need at the high school level in Brooklyn.
Okay, these are all issues we could talk about for a long time. Let's conclude and move on with the meeting. Jamie, Perry, if you're still there, thank you so much. Steve, Andrea, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank
yeah.
you. And a very happy holiday season to each and every one of you and everyone on this call today.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Good night,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Good night. Good night.
Dr. Superintendent, Dr. Preto, thanks for hanging out until 9:15. The floor is yours.
No, my pleasure, President Stowe. Always excited to be here with the community. And I in light of the multiple presentations tonight, I'll definitely keep it brief. And I just want to thank all the principals and parents and everybody who's come on tonight. I definitely want to, reiterate the welcome to Principal Jane Kapitanakis, who is the new CSA chair in District 20. So thanks so much for coming on and joining. Really excited to have you in partnership in this capacity. So really excited, and it's great to see Principal Muniz, who I appreciate him being able to make it tonight. And Principal Alejandro as well, and some of our other principals. So thanks so much for being here. I'm going to keep it brief. I definitely want to touch upon again the D75 announcement. I think it's important to kind of walk through briefly the pieces around the announcement of these two sites being able to meet the middle school need in light of a history of conversations and advocacy in the district prior to me coming on board as superintendent in the district. Originally at the Angel Guardian home, there were 96 seats for D75 slated that were going to be elementary seats, which was not going to address the need. And we did a lot of advocacy work in partnership with parents, as well as the Office of District Planning, advocating to the city and to SCA to be able to make the shifts to make this happen. So I think it's important to to know that the shifts were made in like real partnership and in response to the community need, and because of that, there are some people, and I mentioned it before, but I'll really want to make sure that those folks are recognized in the work that they did to make sure that their advocacy resulted in the need being met for the children in the district. And because of this, in combination with the being able to procure and then ensure that the Our Lady Guadalupe site was a standalone D75 site, which was a little bit of a point of contention, but ultimately was most going to serve the needs of the children in the district. We're now going to be able to have sites on both the eastern and western portions of the district to be able to serve our district-based students in D75, so they do not have to ride buses out of the district. That was ultimately the piece that we wanted to make sure that we were able to solve, and again recognize the efforts of all of the folks who did that. So for those of you who are finding out tonight, I'll be reaching out to you personally to just be able to thank you for your efforts and all of your work and making sure that this was able to be accomplished. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clarified and named.
Sorry, if I could just jump in very quickly, I want to take this moment in turn to also acknowledge Superintendent Preto. He was absolutely integral in the process of problem solving for some of these extremely contentious challenges. Space, as we mentioned over and over again, is such a commodity in this district, and there's always competing needs and priorities, but this need is so important and something that he really made central to his kind of opening vision as superintendent. And so I want to take a moment to just commend him and to also thank him for his partnership in this work, because this big kind of pivot and shift towards adding these new District 75 middle school seats is in direct kind of thanks to his work and advocacy here. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Jamie. I appreciate that. It was a team effort. It really was. So I'm glad it got done, and I didn't want it to be casually announced and the importance get lost of what we were able to accomplish. There's been a need that's been continuing to go on with all of our 5th grade and 8th grade families. The middle school and high school admissions process has been always a challenge for our 5th grade and 8th grade parents. I am an 8th grade parent this year, and I am personally going through the high school admissions process. So I am empathetic and sympathetic to the challenges and the extended wait that we have all been waiting for in terms of getting a finalized process and criteria for admissions for this year into middle school and high school. I unfortunately do not have any new information or updates regarding that, but I wanted to acknowledge it. And at the request of President Stowe and the CEC, as this has been one of the focal points of outreach to the CEC, I'm sure, as well as to my office around answers and updates. So I just want to name it and validate it because it's really valid. We're hoping that we're going to get the information soon, and we continue to make our request to the Office of Admissions for updates to this process. So currently, the applications have been issued. The specialized high school test is in the process of being administered. Many children took it last Thursday at their school sites, as well as some being administered. But other than that, there are no additional updates to the high school and middle school admissions processes. And then finally, just there was one request regarding the bilingual programs, and I thank Perry and Jamie for, naming them a lot of the numbers of programs across the district. So I can definitely answer any school specific questions for the, bilingual programs or any of the other specialized programs. But I thank you both for just kind of addressing that the numbers need in your report earlier. So I'll take that opportunity to conclude my report, and I'll definitely take any questions that President Stowe you have or the council have.
Yeah, thanks, David. And I'll try to be quick because it's getting late. Super, it's awesome news about the D75. I was aware of that issue when I first came on the CEC last year, and you know, if the numbers match up like we're showing, it's amazing to have kids not have to try, like you say, not have to travel out of the district. I mean, that's a nightmare. As someone whose son goes to high school in Queens, it's challenging for kids. On admissions, what's the holdup? Like, what is the DOE doing?
The admissions process is one that is coordinated by the Office of Admissions. We're waiting for their guidance, and that's something that is issued citywide. We will, and so beyond that, I'm not sure what we're waiting for. I can only imagine that the current context may have something to do with it, but other than that, I can't answer for sure. So I have as many speculations as you do.
Are you willing? I mean, this is Josh Wallach, right? Is he? He's the deputy superintendent of admissions. Is that right?
He has a few offices under his portfolio as deputy chancellor. Admissions is one of them.
Okay, deputy chancellor. I mean, okay. All right. Does anyone else have any questions for Superintendent Preto? Any council members?
Yes, I do. Because there's guarantee for your zone high school now, and that's kind of like disappointing some of our kids.
Ooh, Elizabeth, you're breaking up a little bit for me, at least.
So far into a good high school, because sorry, I just found out like there's no guarantee seat for a kid in their zone high school. Like there's no zone high school anymore.
My understanding of the zoning in high school is not as solid as my understanding of zoning in elementary and middle school. Like it's a different process, and also reflected in how SCA goes about even doing the planning. They plan on the borough wide rather than the district level. And then regarding zoning specifically, like if you're going to take a school like Fort Hamilton High School, if that was one school that was in my district, when schools become overcrowded at a certain point, we start capping and overflowing students into alternate sites. And that's something that typically happens in District 20 at the middle school level and at the elementary level. And it's not ideal, but it's part of the process while we wait for new schools to come online in order to relieve the overcrowding.
But
So I don't know if that's exactly how admissions goes about it in the Office of Admissions. What I can do is I can reach out to the Director of Admissions, who supports schools and parents in District 20, to get specific answers on how that goes, and hopefully get some information. But the directors are still waiting for the same guidance that we're all waiting for as well.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like the high schools in District 20 are at capacity. They're very overflowed and very crowded. I don't understand, like Vito said, like why do our kids have to travel to an underutilized school far away from our zone, where they live? Like I kind of have a problem with that.
I can't speak to that
We
being.
have to think about that.
Yeah, I hear you. I can't speak to that being exactly the scenario. I know that there's several the schools, the high schools that are in our proximity, Fort Hamilton, FDR, New Utrecht, many of them are large and at or near capacity. They're definitely kind of on the larger end of high schools. In my experience over here in South Brooklyn versus other parts of the city, but at the same time, like I can't speak to like that being the individual case for all children. What I do know is that the high schools that are near us in District 20 are definitely on the overcrowded end. And one thing that I can do in support is I can make the outreach to the Office of Admissions, but this is something that the council has definitely made very clear in terms of like a need. It's not something that is, not understood by the DOE in terms of a need. And the SCA definitely explained earlier their process for going about, planning for how capacity gets created, which is different than how it happens at the the community school, like the K-8 level.
It
Any other-
still has the issue with me, but I guess
I understand.
I could look for issue because those 3 schools are actually the school closest to my house, and they are very full.
No, I understand. I understand 100%.
So, the like SCA just mentioned, it's almost not their responsibility to.
It's like very stressful that.
Go ahead, Kevin. Kevin, go ahead. Kevin has the floor.
Okay, so I was about to say that, I think that SCA just mentioned it's not really, they almost saying that it's not their responsibility because they have to plan on the broad level, not on the district level. And then, so can you shed us some light? How is this decision being made? Because, does it ever consult with the parents? Having a 9th grader to travel across the board is definitely not, at least it's not ideal situation for the kids. And at the same time, we heard so many news on the safety issue on the subway. And today, actually today I also read the news on the Staten Island high school in the Staten Island, that the kids with the gun and beating up, which is, it's not like a normal kids fighting anymore. So in that, I believe parents will be worrying about it, the safety, the traveling commute time. So I was wondering, how does that decision be made, and is there a way we can do and be consulted?
Kevin, thanks so much. Like what I can do. So I'm the community district superintendent for District 20. I am I'm in charge of the pre-K programs as well as the K-8 schools in the district. I don't oversee high schools, and our work together doesn't encompass high schools. It doesn't come under my purview. What I can do. So what I can do is I can definitely make outreach and connect you and the council. We have had some conversations with with President Stowe earlier around like what are some of those other structures that do inform and give parents a voice to advocate regarding high school. So I can definitely make sure that you all are put in contact with those entities, both from the kind of the CEC equivalent for high schools as well as the DOE superintendent and other folks who are the admissions folks who are a part of that process to be able to continue making the need known and the voice heard. But I that's something that the CEC 20 has done a good job of, has been to communicate that need. So it's definitely the DOE is definitely aware of the need of the issue.
Any other questions for Kevin? Are you okay?
Yep, thanks.
Sure.
Yeah. One more thing I want to mention is that I just heard today that back in September, our PS 310 received the Blue Ribbon Award.
Yes, they did.
That's a big news to me. I hope are we doing anything to that in the district for this?
It was a very big deal. So Principal Hong, as well as one of her staff members, were able to travel to the annual National Blue Ribbon Conference. District 20 is blessed with a few Blue Ribbon schools, and Principal Hong was able to be celebrated and receive her the award on behalf of the 310 community for being awarded the National Blue Ribbon Award. We also had a couple of our principals who are former Blue Ribbon School winners, Josephine Sportella Justo at the Academy of Talented Scholars, PS 682, and Principal Tony Wu at PS 170. Were among those who joined Principal Hong at the National Blue Ribbon Conference to receive that really prestigious award. It's and it's a huge honor, and definitely adding to the accolades of the District 20 schools. So absolutely, we had a special shout out for her and the school at our last principal conference. And we're really excited to invite CEC 20 members to our next principals conference on December 21st. I neglected to say that in my report, but I just wanted to, we're definitely, I will be sending the link to all of the members probably the next week, and we're excited to invite all members to our principal professional learning, which includes principals as well as members of their instructional leadership teams as part of our district plan for the instructional priority of social, emotional, and academic learning across New York City this year.
Any other questions?
Is Principal Han joining us today? I really would like to congratulate her on this, and I'm so sorry to hear it's so late on this one. Actually, I was hoping out earlier and let's congratulate her.
She is not joining us tonight. However, what we can do is make sure that she joins us at. I can arrange to ensure that she joins at the next CC meeting, if you like, and we can definitely celebrate the accomplishment in January.
Okay, I'll send a message to congratulate her. Thanks.
Any other questions for Superintendent?
Steve?
Yes.
May I?
Go.
So I just want to piggyback. I want to piggyback on both what the superintendent said and what Kevin said. I was at these meetings for the D75 2 years ago, and I want to thank the council members from 2 years ago that started this conversation. I also want to send a shout out to Karina, who was there, and she did get the ball rolling, and it was very important to all of us that we move forward with this. And thank you, Superintendent, for taking the ball and running with it and taking it across the finish line. I'd also want to say, listen, as a father of 3 people, and as anybody who's a parent of multiple kids, you have this mental tally sheet, right? Okay, so I did this for one, and then I got to do this, and you try to keep it even. And I would really like to suggest the importance of doing that with all of our populations in District 20. District 20 has been one of the few districts that has maintained its population, and I believe it's maintained its population for its focus on academic excellence. People come from all over to come to school in District 20 because of the great work that we do. And I want to jump on what Kevin said, and I want to congratulate Principal Hong for her great work, as well as her APs and her families and our kids for all of the work they put in to have this great achievement. I wanted to say that as well. But I really think that we really need to center everybody and give everybody a center in the spotlight. We need to get all of these policies centered. We're centering District 75, and that's great. We're doing a need. We're meeting a need that we have there. And we also, not to be a broken record, but we have a need for excellence in District 20, including gifted and talented in all of the classes. And this is something that's going to come up with our new chancellor. It was announced today, David Banks, I'm sure. But I really want to emphasize the importance of honoring principals like Principal Hong and really maintaining the great reputation of District 20. Thank you, Superintendent, for letting me rant.
Thanks, Vito. Anyone else like to ask questions of Superintendent Preto? I think we can probably move on at this point. He's always willing to meet with us or speak to us on the phone if needed. So let's move on in the interest of time here. So thanks, Superintendent, as always. And I want to talk about 3 things. Actually, first and foremost, I do want to say, Principal Kapitanakis, are you still here? And I just wanted to get, as I promised hours ago, I wanted to give you the floor to just introduce yourself if you'd like to, and sort of if you're still here. I'm just looking in the participant.
Yes, I'm still here. Thank you so much. It's been a busy night. Many of the families may know me already. I've been the principal of PS 69 this is my 16th year. It's my sweet 16. As principal of PS 69, I'm happy to be here, and I will be taking over as the CSA chair for Ms. Bernardis, who recently retired. Mrs. Bernardis was our pre-K director. So I'm very happy to represent my colleagues and work in close contact with our CEC, with Superintendent Preto, and be here to represent my colleagues as well. And I'm happy to be joined by my executive board member, Javier Muniz, who is principal of PS 200. And of course, our colleague, Ms. Alejandro, principal of PS 127. Thank you so much.
Of course. Congratulations. Just three things I want to mention. I would like to follow up on the social emotional screener, the DESA screener. We got really good feedback from both from Superintendent Preto as well as from the Department of Education. Thank you to our FACE liaison, Steve Weiser, for that. A few key points I would like to share in this meeting, and I'd also like to make available on our website and Facebook, given the number of questions parents have had about the DESA screener. It's been made very clear that if the parent wants to see the completed form for their child, they are entitled to receive it pursuant to federal law and DOE regulation A-820. Just ask your school. The opt-out, if you want to opt out, you can, and it doesn't have to be a written letter. It can be an email to the school principal, and that will opt you out of the process. And then if a parent wishes to opt out in writing from the DESA screener after the rating is completed, contact the school, and the SEL, the social emotional learning lead at the school, has an opportunity to delete the record of the rating from the Aperture platform. And we did get some feedback about the number of questions on the screener. And the response was that they are teaching, that they're trying to address 8 different subcategories of social emotional health. And so when you sort of come up with a few different questions for each subcategory, that gets you to 40 questions. There's also additional information on how the DESA will be used that the DOE provided that we have posted on our website under the resources tab. I personally have no problem. My son did the screening, but I know a lot of parents want the option to, number one, get more information and possibly opt out. So hopefully this is an area where we've got some clearer information now. This is a comment on state legislation, and we've just been I've been notified about this by our friends on the Citywide Council on Special Education. And I just want to point to, I guess, Natalia, can you share the link on our Facebook page or the website for the Senate Bill 6516, the one that we posted a couple days ago? While Natalia's doing that, I'll just quickly explain. There's a Senate bill that's there are private providers of special education services in the city, in the state of New York, in situations where the public school district is not able to provide those services. And these schools are referred to as 853 schools and 4110 schools. And this is an issue that's been longstanding for years. They don't receive the same rate of increase in their funding as schools, the public schools do, the state funding, because the state funds these schools, these privately run schools, on a contract basis. And so there's a bill in the Senate that would equalize that rate of funding. This year, the public schools received a 7% increase in foundation aid, and these privately run schools received a 4% increase. And what really struck me is that the bill was passed unanimously by the state Senate and by the state Assembly. And so at this point, there's just a campaign to try and persuade Governor Hochul to sign it. Natalia, are you able to pull up the website? I can try. Let me try and share.
Yeah, I'm still looking that one.
And I'll just say that there are a number of these schools in our district, of these providers in our district as well. And so again, much due respect to our public school system, but if for whatever reason, and I'm not familiar enough with how the children get placed in these programs or choose to go to these programs, and sure, it's very complicated, I realize, but in the interest of sort of doing what's best for the children, you know, to me, it makes sense to really consider this bill. And so, and then finally, I just want to talk a little bit about a chancellor's regulation that's been proposed, Chancellor's Regulation 210D. I will try and share my screen to do this. Natalia, it's okay. I'm going to share my screen for something different now.
Okay.
Thanks. So there's a proposed Chancellor's Regulation 210D, which will be voted on by the Panel for Educational Policy at the next meeting on the 21st of December. This one I've just started to get familiar with. Essentially, it regulates, it's a citywide and community education council code of conduct and complaint procedures, anti-discrimination and anti-harassment policy. So this involves regulating CEC and citywide councils in terms of speech and actions. There's a couple issues that I just want to bring to people's attention. One is it's obviously along with a lot of other policies that's being introduced at the last minute by the current administration. It's being done fairly quickly. As a member of the CEC for almost a year now, I was not aware that this was under development. And I think that something like this, as it affects us and given the ramifications, this particular regulation calls for potentially asking CEC members, potentially removing CEC members for violations of the regulation. And there's a number of questions I have about the circumstances and in the language used in here, but I think it's something that is better left to potentially another administration and hopefully not in this form. And so I just want to encourage any CEC members to sort of acquaint themselves with this and to attend the PEP meeting on the 21st. And please share your opinion, whatever it may be, on this particular regulation. I'm just looking to see if that is all I wanted to say on it. Yes. So those are my comments. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. Natalia, any luck with the website?
I couldn't pull it up since you were screen sharing.
Oh, once I'm on there, let me try and grab it on my end. So I have to stop the share on this one and then go to actually, there's no need to do this. If anyone is interested, contacting Governor Hochul's office, they can, to advocate for that Senate Bill 6516, they can do it on our website and our social media page, or just the governor's office directly. She has until the end of the year to sign the bill or veto it. Okay. Now I think we have the public speaking session. Natalia, given that it's so late and I see, anyway, is there anyone signed up for public speaking at this point?
Danielle Lamana.
Okay. Hello, Danielle. The floor is yours. You have 2 minutes.
Well, Steve, I'm Danielle right now. She had to go on family obligation and she sent me her statement. So I'm reading Danielle Lamana's statement. My question or comment pertains to the new rule put into place regarding parents entering school buildings. I personally feel that all parents should be treated equally. When you offer admission into public school buildings, this should not be based on vaccination status. The truth is, There is no scientific findings that suggest unvaccinated parents promote a greater risk. If masks must be worn in order to protect students and faculty, what difference does it make whether the parent of a student is vaccinated when the students themselves are not all vaccinated? The truth is, this new rule is a push to get all people to comply with this unconstitutional mandate to get vaccinated. I feel that if the mayor is imposing this and DOE must follow, the least that can be done is to not have any parents enter the school buildings at all. That would actually be fair for all parents. Punishing parents who choose to not get vaccinated is ridiculous. I have given 10 years of my time as a volunteer PTA president. I have always put the students and their families first. As a representative of all parents, I wanted to make sure to represent all families equally, and I expect New York City DOE should do the same. Sincerely, Daniela Lamont.
Thank you, Daniela. Natalia, has anyone else signed up?
No, no one else signed up.
Okay, great. With that, unless there are any final questions or concerns, any council members? I think I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, please join us for our next meeting on January, would that be the 9th, Natalia? Sounds right.
I think it is. Done. 12th.
January
12th.
January 12th. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all. Have a nice,
Good
great
Holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
happy holidays.
Have a good evening, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Somebody in
Happy
Spanish
holidays.
said it. Thank you and have a good evening, everybody.
Good night, and thank you to translators for staying so late.
Thank you for having us.